It's good to see you again. We're back for part two of my Jubilee video about progressive men versus traditional men debating the great truths of the universe. And today, the title of the video is Will Any Progressive Men Go Traditional? Well, I hope you're excited because I am, even though, I already know how this ends, but I'm excited to see how it all kind of came together in the edit. So let's check it out. Let's talk about it and let's get started.
The idea that depression is a choice. I guess
We go ahead and turn on the subtitles. And now let's go.
the idea that depression is a choice. I guess it just doesn't really make sense to me why someone would choose to be in a miserable state for a long time.
I would just say to you, like, do you know anybody in a toxic relationship?
Fair enough, fine. But what I'm wondering is then, would you blame people who stay in toxic relationships and call them weak?
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome back to
Okay. Already hot and ready to go. Okay. This is another one of those things that on the surface level, you're like, yeah, obviously, why would you choose to be in a bad relationship? I think when you crack the ice, you dig a little deeper, you start to realize there are external factors that keep you in these relationships. It's not as simple as just like, oh, I want to stay in a toxic relationship because, I think deep down he really loves me. I mean, there's some of that sometimes, but some people really are fearing for their safety. Some people really fear for their security outside of their relationship, right? I mean, especially in today's society, if you're a woman and you try to leave your relationship without any kind of financial backing or any financial ground, well, you can get really screwed. Like, you have to have a strong support system to allow you to get out of it. I mean, it's a scary situation for anyone involved. And so that's why it's never easy dealing with these kinds of things. That is for sure. So that's why you have to have a little bit more empathy when talking about, oh, are you weak to stay in a toxic relationship? It's just, it's never really that simple,
Middle Ground XL. I am John, and I'm here with traditional men and progressive men. Not all issues separate into clean binaries. We want to give all of these men the opportunity to agree or disagree with the middle ground statements from the last video. And if they agree with them, they will step forward, and if they disagree, they will remain seated. Our first middle ground statement from part one is, should men spend their time watching porn?
That was our first middle ground? Wasn't that like our third topic? Damn, we were bad at finding middle grounds.
No, men should not be spending their time watching porn.
I hope you're all sitting down. I also agree. No, men should not spend their time watching porn.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
That was so fun.
Let's let the conversation
If
ensue.
you agree with that middle ground statement, come to the middle. If you disagree, remain seated.
Oh my goodness.
All right, so all of the men who came
Take a look at that. So only 8% of traditional men said no, 92% yes. And then, how many of that? 48%. Oh, the minority of the progressive men said yes. That's so interesting. Okay. I actually, because when you're there, you don't really, the numbers aren't really broken down for you then. So you're just kind of guessing. I thought the majority actually had agreed, yes. But actually, no. And you may find that I also am sitting down. The truth about it is that I believe in the freedom to be able to do pretty much whatever it is you want to do, so long as it's not harming anyone else, or overindulging and harming yourself. The same way I wouldn't tell someone not to drink alcohol or not to smoke cigarettes or whatever. It's the same idea with this. I'd be more inclined to try and urge someone not to smoke cigarettes than I would to tell them not to watch this kind of stuff. But there is a lot of things that go into it that don't make it, that simple. I don't necessarily like the way that the pornography industry is run. I definitely don't. There's a lot of history of exploitation and a lot of ways that it has been used in an incredibly negative way throughout, the existence of it. But I really am a fan of what has happened lately in the past couple of years, where a lot of women are, taking their futures in their own hands and choosing this career path that they love. They're happy with. It makes them happy, and the freedom of being able to do that on their own through OnlyFans or whatever other subscription-based service they want to use, or however they want to do it. I think it's great. I think it's just another avenue for another career avenue that allows a lot of independence and allows a lot of autonomy And so there are a lot of different aspects that really go into it that are kind of tough one way or the other. I don't really sit firmly in one or the other camp, I suppose. I think I just more so lean towards the freedom of both the people who work in that industry to have a job that they love, and the freedom of people who, consume the content to be able to consume the content. I think that ultimately, I think it needs more regulation more than anything, but I don't think in and of itself is harmful. And I think the rest of the conversation will speak for itself, and I will speak to the conversation.
Forward here, agree that men shouldn't spend their time watching porn, and you guys are the degenerates who think. I'm just joking. You are the defenders of porn. Who
I have
see
the
one
advantage
mic
of already
here.
having the mic in my hand. So, there are the thing about this is that there's this absolutist attitude about things that could be addictive that I just think is counterproductive. Also, there are measurable benefits to porn. We never talk about it, but there are lots of tangible benefits available to people
The
through porn. Now,
faces
I'm
are
not-
so good. The faces are hilarious.
we never
Oh my
talk
goodness.
about it.
My man. His face and his face are some of the best faces you've ever seen in your entire life in this moment.
But there are lots of tangible benefits available to people through porn. Now, I'm not saying it's everybody, but I'm just saying we villainize this thing when there should be nuance.
What are the
Well, so sociologists have found, for instance, that it can be an additive to couples discussing their desires with each other. It can also provide people context who need better understanding of what their sexual desires are. In fact, a lot of people report that the language they use to describe sexual stuff with their partner, they learned from nowhere else but porn because it wasn't available to them anywhere else. Does that make sense?
I do think that's an interesting argument as well. The idea about it's tough because on one hand, porn can provide a lot of information for people at the same time providing a lot of disinformation for people. But the truth is, like, where do you get that information from? Because a lot of people, you'd have to rely on your parents to do it, or you'd have to rely on your school system to do it. Which, according to a lot of the traditional people, it wouldn't be talked about in schools at all. Which then is a whole new issue, right? So it's an interesting way of looking at it, and I don't really know what the data is, and it's really funny we didn't get a fact check on that one. But either way, yeah, I think it's a nuanced thing, by and large, and I don't really think there's one or two distinct ways about it really.
What about you? You want?
Yeah. So to attest that, I have a personal example.
All right, hold on. Samuel. What Samuel's about to say is something that blew my mind, blew me away with how great his argument was. Because what are you gonna say against it? Nothing. Let's listen to what Samuel has to say.
So like, I don't care if I embarrass myself on front of everyone, but like, so I discovered through porn that there's an action called like sex wrestling. So you're wrestling with your partner, and then
Yeah, his face, man. Oh, it's so good. Look at his face. Oh my god. Oh, it's so good.
it leads to sex, and you're wrestling in a very sexual way. And I don't do that like every time I have sex, but it's something that was cool that I learned through porn. Like, it's about exploring sexuality as well as like being a way for some people to vent.
So I think porn, like objectively, yeah, probably bad for your brain and things of that nature. However, there are obviously people benefiting from it, like people consensually involved. Prostitution is one of the oldest jobs in the world, if not the own. And I'm very
The funny thing about Jabron is that Jabron says like all like the how the only word I know for it is like the dumb guy arguments, where it's like the most simple thing you've ever heard in your life that everyone just kind of throws around. Like, oh, prostitution was actually the oldest profession. And it's so, like, he's not wrong, but it's always so funny to hear what he says about these things, because it's always just like the most simple thing about it. It's always just like, what was it? I can't remember what he said last episode, but he's always just saying just some basic thing about like this is a basic fact of the world, man. And it just, it's always funny to me. Good for Jabron, man. Out here laying down the law.
on the I mean, that's the strange thing, because with conservatism we want more power to our people, right? We don't want governance. So the ability for people to make their own decisions to, you know, be in pornography. And then in terms of consuming it, I mean, yeah, like my boy said, you can't learn some shit, man. How you gonna learn how to eat a chili ring like properly when you're not watching porn on Munchbox, bro? You guys crazy. And then also there is a good release, because some of us, you know, there's a whole spectrum of sexual desires. You know, some guys are cool being, you know, Mr. One and Done, but like, bro, if I'm not nutting, you know, it could get crazy, bro. Who knows? You can't let all these menaces out on the street. Not out of the way.
I'm sorry. All those. Oh my gosh, dude. This prompt brings out some of the best faces you've ever seen in your life. This is the best.
Bro,
Oh
who
my
knows? You can't
gosh.
let all these menaces out on the street. Not out of the way. Not saying I'm a menace, right? Like, you gotta buzz sometimes, bro. And my imagination is not that good, and I can't draw that well.
All right, so really quick, I think
He's saying, man? What is he saying?
there's traditional porn. Then I think if you have a wife, girlfriend, or something, and y'all decide to record something, come on now, are you telling me that me and my woman can record something? See, this is what I'm talking about. We're not being out. We want to see our woman in ways, and women love it. It's a flirty way. I think a lot of you guys are talking about the outside porn. I'm talking about inside the relationship, the porn you make.
Okay. And then we're gonna come to the circle. We're gonna hear
That's not
from
what
the
we're
circle in
talking
a
about.
second.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just the first thing that came to mind, I don't know why I'm defending you guys, but I don't know how, like, we define porn, but it would seem like maybe that exists outside the bounds of commercial pornography, just like making a video with you and your wife that isn't for commercial sale. Regardless, that's not the point that I really wanted to make. What I wanted to say was more that I also really want to echo Ryan's point. Just regarding I don't think there are any clear binaries here. I think that I would be very sympathetic to everything you guys said, that if, you know, a man were to come to me and say, should I watch porn on balance? I'd say probably not. And I think the negatives largely outweigh the positives, but I just think
This is an interesting question. If another grown man came to me and asked, hey, should I watch it? I don't know if I'd say no. I think I would just say, you know, if it's something you feel like doing, I suppose. See how you like it. If it's good for you, then cool. If it's not, then no. You know, it's your life. I don't think I would ever be like no. Because again, there's like a positive side. Do it without even like getting really scientific about it. It's like it just makes people happy. If you really want to just kind of talk brass tacks, right? So I mean, shoot, maybe it's just like something for them to do. Like I said, I would by and large, if someone asked me, should I watch porn, drink alcohol, or smoke cigarettes, which three of these do you think is the best thing for me? I'd probably say porn. Because alcohol and cigarettes have like physical, tangible damage to your body, while porn does not. And so I think that's kind of where I sit on that whole issue.
think that humans are too vast and diverse to tell everyone what they should and shouldn't do. If you're not, you know, harming anyone, if you're not hurting anyone else, now there's arguments to be made that there's certain aspects of the porn industry that can be harmful and maybe those could be better regulated, but I don't think that we should go around saying that these benefits don't exist or they shouldn't be considered, or for some people that they shouldn't do that. I'd say for most people, probably not a great idea because of the unrealistic expectations and fantasies that it does create. I am completely on board with that. I have had my own experience with porn, and you know, if I could do it all over again, I do wish I hadn't watched it. However, I don't want to put that on to everyone. So, yeah.
I don't think there's anything, you know, just to speak to you right now, there's anything traditional or conservative about watching two strangers having sex online. It just seems very weird and bizarre.
You're a cuck if you do. You're a loser.
and I don't even think it's beneficial in the context of marriage, because what if that pornography?
He always chimes in too. Now again, these are all like the traditional guys, so I don't really get to speak to them that much. All I know is from that guy in particular, he just walked up to me while we were doing this. He's just like, "Nice pants." I was like, "Thanks, man." That's all I know about him. I didn't even catch all the little, like, obviously I didn't see the in-group stuff in the last episode, and then I didn't even remember this one, but it's just so funny. I didn't know he was going so hard.
gets leaked somehow, and it's revenge porn now whoever's involved has a much bigger problem, which is one of the problems that come from pornography. I'm a Christian. I believe in traditional Christian values. I believe that it's adultery. So you're committing adultery against your wife by viewing somebody else. So I just think it largely has societal implications. Also, if it were one thing that it was going to just stay in the bedroom and maybe just you and your spouse are going to see, maybe, but but that's largely not the porn that we're dealing with. It's everywhere. Even if you don't want to see it, you unknowingly get exposed to it.
Unknowingly get exposed to it? I mean, now that Elon bought Twitter, yeah. I mean, fair enough, I'm on that. But, I think I had something to say, and I forgot what I was going to say because I was playing with the can. Okay, let's just keep going.
I kind of want to ask a question to the men who are on my side of the spectrum. You talk a lot about like the benefits of porn and stuff like that, and those things might be legitimately accurate things, but do you have any gripes with like the porn industry as it exists nowadays? Yeah, with like the racism that's being exploited. Like, okay, yeah.
Everything is problematic. It's not like anything we discussed on this show is without problematicness. But yes, porn is problematic, but that doesn't rule it out as valid.
Nor is it by nature problematic, so let's not do that.
And if I can, I think I would want to clarify too that porn in and of itself isn't the issue so much as maybe a lack of regulation and responsibility placed on the business side of porn, to where there needs to be more management and oversight. Whereas porn, just by the nature of its very existence, is neutral. I understand that there can be religious connotations that may make a different analysis of that, but at the end of the day, it's still people, right? And oftentimes, especially with the porn industry, not always, there are women that are at executive positions and in the top two, but is also regulated predominantly by men. And so I think it comes back to us as men being responsible for what we're putting into the world and what we're allowing to put out there. And briefly, if I can shift for a moment, genuine question to
hold on real quick. I remembered what I wanted to say earlier now. About the guy who talked about adultery and that watching porn would be considered adultery by Christian standards, I guess, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the exact word by word definition of adultery is. But I mean, when it comes to like cheating, I feel like that is always kind of case by case. You never really know what cheating is unless you talk with your partner about what they consider cheating. And back to what Chad is saying, I think Chad perfectly encapsulates everything about this, right? Is that ultimately it comes from lack of regulation, which is the scary part about it, the problematic part about it more than anything. And it is great to see. I think that the porn industry, genuinely cannot run without women. I mean, don't get me wrong, of course there's a lot of gay porn out there, and that's incredible industry in and of itself. But when we're talking about like the vast majority of porn, just by the fact that gay people are a minority, then obviously the porn of heterosexual porn or whatever would be considered the majority. I feel so weird talking about this, but I would really like to see a total takeover of the porn industry. I think that would be like the coolest, best thing ever for women to really, shine in that industry in particular. Maybe this is like a blind spot I have. Like maybe this is a really dumb thing or a really like kind of misogynistic thing to say, and I don't mean for it to be. I genuinely just mean like that is an industry that women dominate, and they should have, the overall say in making sure that industry works out best for women. And I would personally think that would be the best way for that industry to move forward, is to really do a nice big break into that thing and make sure that the people who are participating in it are the people who are running it. Me personally, that's how I feel about it, at least.
Explore your mind with this. But for example, I don't doubt that it is against the Christian faith to watch porn in whatever format that might be. But I would also be curious to know why, as a Christian, why not just make the personal decision as, hey, we as Christians are not going to watch porn, and exclusively we are against it, but whatever everybody else wants to do, fine, whatever.
Yeah,
so okay, Aldo's gonna talk right now, and Aldo's, I think, like the end all be all when it comes to like the traditional men and their enacting their will. Because we could say that about everything. Like Chad is absolutely right. Traditional men say this about everything. It's never just a simple like, yeah, no, we will live like this, you live like this. It is constantly like, no, we must all live like this. and it's just oppressive ideals.
So as a Christian, I would disagree with that, and it's actually I'm glad you asked that because I want to touch on something that I think is a little bit broader of why do we think that some things are right for everybody, and I think that's the main difference that I've noticed between the progressive arguments and the traditional arguments is that we seem to be rooted in something objective, that it's not just right for me. If something is correct, it is correct objectively. It's correct not just for me, but for everybody. And it's something that I've noticed throughout this debate. You know, should men wear skirts? Well, I don't really know. It doesn't really matter. And should people do this? Well, it doesn't really matter. They can do what they want to do, and we can do what we want to do. And I wanted to point out because it seems like that is the anti-social position, that you can do this and you can do that and we can do this. And I think that the traditional
Camera
side
panned
is
over
that,
to all three of us.
we have to have a sense of community. We have to come to a conclusion on things that are objectively correct and things that are objectively incorrect. And pornography is one of those things. It is detrimental. And for you to just say on every subject that, well, it's nuanced and there might be some benefits and one woman might have been helped. Okay, well, that doesn't really tell us anything. Should we watch pornography? And that was the question. Should we do it? Not, are there some nuances, or is it good for some people? Is this something that we should encourage? Is this something that we should promote for people to do?
I saw some movement.
Okay, before we continue, because things are about to get kind of off the rails in a second. The points that Aldo brings up, I vehemently disagree with the idea that there are some things that are right for everybody in terms of like the social way of living, like being gay or being straight, or wearing a skirt or not wearing a skirt, or watching porn, or drinking or smoking or whatever it is, right? These things, I guess the drinking and smoking one is a little bit different because, like you said, again, there's like negative effects on your body, but at the same time, it is kind of your choice. We talk about that with food, right? And I'm no person to tell anybody how to eat. Trust me, I love eating, but you can't do that. You simply cannot create a world that way that is not rooted in anger and unrest. It's just impossible. There is no such thing as an objective way to live life. People have been changing the way they've lived lives and living their lives for hundreds of years. Very long time, with many societies coming in and out and changing and moving and grooving in different ways. There is no one objective way to live. It has never ever been that way, and it never ever will be. It's that simple. There are just certain things that don't work for everybody. If I all of a sudden told everybody, hey, you can only wear the color red for the rest of your lives, you think people are gonna be happy about that? It's not even a big deal, right? It's like, okay, it's a colored shirt, who cares, right? But even then, it's like, well, who are you? I don't want to do what you tell me to do. This is my life. I want to live the way I want to live it. Just already on something so simple, you can already cause a mass unrest, because like, why would anyone want to live that way when they don't want to? It's that simple. There's just no such thing as an objective way to live life, and I automatically just have an issue with that. Now, going to what Aldo's saying about should we encourage men to do it? No, I guess I don't really think I would go and tell like someone, oh, you gotta get on this, you gotta get on this. But again, I wouldn't do that about smoking, drinking. I wouldn't do that about, going and like harming people. The objective truths of life come to more so like harming others is probably the biggest objective truth, is that we should always be working to make sure we are not harming other people to the best of our abilities. Sometimes it's inevitable, but we do our best. And I think that is one of the very few objective realities in this world, is that harming others is negative, overall negative. There's no benefit to harming others. Oh shoot, I guess there are exceptions, huh? Where you talk about some real bad actors. But even then, it's never that simple, and you always try and make sure that's your last resort. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little off base. But anyways, but the idea of should they be doing it, again, you can talk about that all day long with a million different ways of doing it. It is always a choice that a person will have to make, and we are not the arbiters of what people do, and we never will be, because we are mere humans. Until someone comes floating down from the heavens and cures all ailments and shows everyone some magical stuff, okay? There's nobody in the world that can tell other people how to live their entire lives. And it's that simple. It really is.
Real quick, I want to hear why he moved out.
I'll tell you why I moved out. I can't stand judgmental people, man. Y'all, what's crazy about y'all guys?
It's so funny to hear him say that, because like, man, that is your whole team. That's all you guys do, is be judgmental. What? How did you just arrive here? We've been filming. At this point, we were probably filming for at least maybe 5 hours, maybe even longer. I don't know. We were filming for a very long time at this point, and he's only now walking out being like, "Oh, you guys are just judgmental." My friend, open your eyes, man. We've been here. We've been seeing this. That is how they have been.
Guys, y'all act like y'all never, or maybe you haven't had a woman like you enough to take her clothes off and masturbate for you, or show you a titty picture, or show you her ass picture.
Why were you in and now you're out?
Because because Mr. Judgmental over here just shifted my. Because listen. Wait, no.
Okay, let's hear what he says.
Wait, listen. That's what I'm saying. Y'all, I cannot stand. Listen, I respect what y'all are saying, but when you get judgmental, that's where it gets crazy. Y'all, if you know the game, you know women. Women are very sexual. And women love their bodies. And women love to appreciate their bodies. And women love men who appreciate the woman who loves touching their bodies, especially their husbands and girlfriends. So where we're going wrong is,
You know, I forgot that he said that part, the girlfriend's part. I bet that must have drove, like, at least Aldo. It must have made Aldo be like, what? Dude, what is happening, man? This is... You know what's funny is that I'm saying this is I wasn't here and I haven't already seen this, but even then I was also like, what is happening?
we're trying to say because we're not the guy to get them turned on. No, because everybody's wife played with their before, and everybody's wife has sent a video to a guy.
See Aldo's face, man. Aldo's face is so
everybody's
good.
wife played with their before, and everybody's wife has sent a.
All the faces are perplexed. Alex's face is perplexed. Nils is curious as to what on earth is going on. Juma looks disgusted for some reason. I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm remembering everyone's names. I mean, this is Nils, but Aldo's face. Oh my gosh, everyone. The reactions on this. The reactions are beautiful.
A video to a guy. Just because you don't know doesn't mean you're not the guy. So don't sit around. It's wrong to sit here and judge, man. It's weak. It's weak. The wife is a freak. She is. She's freaky. She loves sex.
In a normal Islamic tradition, I can speak on behalf of probably most Muslims in just this regard. It's just not permissible. It's not in our deen. Deen just means a way of something. Like, that's not in our deen. It wasn't around 1,400 years ago. It wasn't around 1,500 years ago. And it's just not a part of our akida, like the way how we conduct ourselves. So,
first of all,
well, there you go. That's his religion, and he's talking about how he follows his religion. There is nothing wrong with that. What is wrong is Aldo's way of thinking of, because this is the thing, is that Aldo's religion and I believe Juma's religion, two very different religions. I mean, if we tried to, adhere everything to religion, this would be a problem, 100%. And I can't remember his name, but also 3 different religions right here. You cannot tie it to your religion, because especially when you have people on your own side, you are all going to become in a one big fight very quickly.
I think fundamentally there's a disagreement that we're being judgmental from this side. I think I literally sat up there and I said, I done it before, right? That's not me judging. That's me saying I have the experience of what it can do to you. It's not a good thing. If anything, I'm judging myself and saying I engaged with it. It's not something you should do. And just because you guys think you learned how to put a Hot Wheels in your butt, that all of a sudden.
Look at Ryan's face. I don't even think that I personally comprehended what he was saying, because look at my face. I must have tuned him out. Shane is tapped in. Shane is like, what is happening? But anyways, that's not what I wanted to respond to. I wanted to respond to the idea of him feeling, like he did something wrong with the porn thing, which, maybe he did do something wrong with the porn thing. What I mean more so to talk about is, I think he views it, he views porn as such a bad thing, and therefore he views what he did as such a moral failing on his own part. And, sometimes we make mistakes, man. No one's perfect. It's okay to make mistakes and learn and grow. It's that simple, but to the idea of just telling everyone like, oh, I made a mistake, I overindulge, so therefore you should never even slightly indulge. It's just it's not the way to live. You can't tell people how to live. You can't force them to adhere to what you did, or force them to adhere to your lifestyle simply because when you tried to do it, it messed up. You know, ultimately, you know, if I tried to, you know, become, I don't know, if I tried to like join a profession, if I was like, I'm gonna try and become a magician, and I tried to become a magician, and somehow accidentally, you know, slaughtered someone. What am I saying? Doesn't matter. A magic trick goes wrong. I like break my hand or something, and then I'm sorry, I watched The Prestige too much. I break my hand or something, right? And then I tell everyone else, no, you can't become a magician. Being a magician is bad for you, all right? Trust me, I've been there. I've been a magician. It wasn't good for me. I broke my hand. It'll happen to you. You know, that you can't do that. That's not how it works. Everyone has different experiences. Everyone lives their life differently, and everyone deserves the chance to live and learn, and it really comes down to that. It is not a inherently negative thing just because you had a negative experience.
Sudden that's a benefit, right? Like that's
Yeah,
a
I
weird
definitely did not
example,
hear
but
what he
you
said.
guys are agreeing, I'm hearing, that there's outweighing of bad things, and there's a couple good things you could get from porn, right? But that's not what we're saying. We're saying, should you do something or not? And we're agreeing on this side that you shouldn't, because the bads outweigh the goods, even if there are goods.
Well, that's not what everybody said. And this is the thing that I want to, you know, although and I've had beef about this before on this show, what he said that I think is reflective of what some of you feel is that because of your faith you have an objective accuracy with your point of view, and that whether you think it should be legislated or whether you think it's just how we should have social norms, one of the problems that I have and that some of us have with all of this is that you think that you believe, and I get it's part of your faith, you believe you're morally superior and your judgments thereupon are superior to ours, but that is a bullshit reason to make a mandate for other people. It's and nobody's saying like a lot of you guys have.
I think Juma nods along to that because, again, like I said, Juma does not have the same religion as a lot of the other fellas there, right? And so how you can't base everyone's lives off of one person's religion, and you can see that in their own group.
Repeated what we've said inaccurately in furtherance of that. So I just want to be clear, nobody here is the authority on this, but you guys have got to stop discrediting our points just because your faith backs you up.
The really quick point I wanted to make is just, I'm here because they said we should spend our time watching porn. Like, how do you spend your time?
Yeah, maybe we could talk about the semantics of it. That was a big issue, especially with mine. I got screwed over so hard. John screwed me over hard. All right, I got beef with John about that. Talk about it.
Right.
Not porn.
Well, yeah, it's like I spend my time walking the dog and doing the dishes. And
Okay. Sorry. Anyways, I forgot to address that because I got upset thinking about how John screwed me over. But we'll get there. Anyways, so about this point, yeah, there's a lot of semantics that we all kind of are trying to like figure out what each middle ground technically like kind of means. So Greg is interpreting that should they spend time watching porn as, you know, like, is it something that men ought to be doing this? The way that I perceive the prompt is like, is it okay for them to, you know, spend time watching porn? Which I think is 100% absolutely true. You can spend your time, you know, enjoying yourself, having a good time, doing whatever it is, whether it's, you know, watching TV, playing video games. It's like there are hobbies that people want to do, and there are activities that people want to do. You know, I think that there are more productive activities, absolutely. But who am I to talk, man? I love video games. You know? Enough said.
then I volunteer at an animal rescue. And to me, when you say spending your time watching porn, that just implies a level of time commitment that I don't think is quite good.
Let me address something. So you mentioned that as
all right. I don't think I ever caught his name, how it's pronounced. But I believe he's about to say something that, again, it's another one of those like dumb guy arguments, like that he must have wrote down to like try and like insert it somewhere, and he chose to insert it here, which is like the funniest places of all to insert this thing, because it's just listen.
As long as it pertains to you, as long as you're not bothering the other person, you can do whatever you want, right? Did I?
I said something about like harm-related things. If you're not harming another person, there's a
right
reason is to not, ban someone from doing something. There's a high bar.
Porn harms you. It harms your relationship. There's statistical data. Whatever data you guys mentioned, there's more data that backs our side up.
What the data actually suggests is that the number one.
Okay, I think they must have cut it out, because That's how dumb it was. But if I'm not mistaken, what he said originally to like be like, oh, he's trying to do like a gotcha of being like, oh, so you said like as long as you're not bothering anybody, it's okay to do whatever you want, right? And he's like, well, how about zeroing yourself, giving yourself the old flat line that doesn't harm anybody else. It's like there's so many reasons why that's just one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. Like, if you want to talk about like the amount of damage that happens to the loved ones of people who commit that, that's already a conversation you have to have, right? If you want to talk about some random magical freaking circumstance where there's like one person who like his mom's gone, dad's gone, child's gone, wife's gone, brother's gone, sister's gone, all alone in the entire world, and then they decide to do that to themselves. What are we talking about? We're talking about the most random, ridiculous hypothetical in the entire world. And you know what? I'll go ahead and say it. I'm a hypocrite. I think that is probably one of the main things that if you're not harming anybody else, you're only harming yourself, you should not be doing. And you know something? I don't care that it's hypocritical. I don't. Because guess what? I'm not some jury. I'm not some stupid freaking paper who's writing this down, some fact of law or anything. I'm a human being who can perceive things and understand that, hey, the loss of a human life is not good. And so that's how I feel about it. So no, maybe I'm not consistent, but I'd rather be inconsistent than be consistently bad about something like that. And so there we go. So dumb. It's just so dumb.
One predictor in someone having like problems with, like, for example, their relationships or interpersonal problems with porn is moral incongruence. So it may be more statistically likely for someone like
moral incongruence, when someone's behavior does not align with their values, can lead to those who watch porn to have greater stress related to watching it. Higher reports of perceived addiction. That's very interesting. So the idea that, if you're a conservative man and you're doing this and you know that it doesn't align with your conservative values, then that is what can lead you down a bad path. It's very interesting.
Like you, a religious person or a traditional person, to have an issue with porn, but it's actually the case that people who have more liberal views with that may not be as more likely to have issues with it. Now, I am standing over here because I think that, like, as Greg, I think, mentioned, I don't think that it's something that we should be spending our time doing in the same way. I don't think that we should be spending our time eating junk food, etc. But it's a balance of a literal sense versus maybe an interpretive sense. I don't think that it is as black and white. And on the point of religiosity, some of the highest consumption rates per capita for porn usage are places where porn is in fact banned.
We're all men here. We're all men here. We're debating porn. I want everybody reach into your heart of hearts and be as honest as you can. Have you watched porn in the last 30 days? Raise your hand if it's yes.
Why is my dumbass smiling like that? You stupid moron. Why are you smiling like a dumb little moron dummy?
And, all right. Thank you guys. Okay, let's reset.
I don't know. What kind of commentary do you need on that? You don't need any commentary. Let's keep
In part
moving.
one, the question was, are depressed men weak? And the agreed upon middle ground statement was,
I guess men who are depressed should seek treatment.
Men should seek treatment.
Awesome.
All right.
so if you agree with that middle ground statement, come to the middle. If you disagree, stay seated.
Yeah, so I definitely agreed with the.
So just as a personal note, during these moments, I stood in the back, and I was just kind of like, maybe you'll see me bobbing my head around. I was just kind of dancing in the back because I already got my chance to speak. I really did not intend on speaking any more in the episode because I really did want to let the majority, most people to go and have new opinions, new people talking. There are some times where I raise my hand in order to make sure that if I had something I really wanted to say. But for the most part, I was really content with just taking the back seat on this because I already, I spoke my piece about one of my topics, and so I felt cool just kind of taking the back seat. We'll find out later, I didn't have that option. But for now, yeah, maybe you'll see me just kind of bobbing along back here. I was just kind of looking around the studio.
Depressed men are weak. I say that as someone who was diagnosed with clinical depression and anxiety disorder, actually, too, brought on by being a cancer survivor. And it's not, depression is absolutely real. and you can't control when it happens to you. It just does. It could be for any reason, a disease. It could be because
So then why do you think it's weak if you can't control when it happens to you?
a loved one passed away, so on and so forth. But it absolutely is a choice to stay depressed and therefore to choose to stay weak.
I don't think it's a choice to stay depressed. I think that the best thing that you would want is for depressed people to seek treatment. But I don't think it's as simple as telling someone to get up, get off their butt, and go and do it.
Again, that's not to say that you can't seek help, which I did. I went to a therapist. I had a social worker. I did what I needed to do to get better and come out on top. And I'm all the more strong for it.
I mean, I guess I just want to respond to that quickly. As the one who was, the one who was there for that prompt. I mean, I guess first off, I think it's important to distinguish the difference between the literal meaning of that. Depressed men are weak, I guess, in a weaker mental state because of their illness. Sure, fine, in no pejorative sense, or if we're not attaching anything onto it, in complete agreement. Outside of that, I do think that is a harmful idea, and I want to speak a little bit to something that you said specifically regarding the idea that depression is a choice. I guess it just doesn't really make sense to me why someone would choose to be in a miserable state for a long time. Like it doesn't make sense to me. It's the same like that.
It's a choice because it doesn't have to define you. And you said something earlier about the rhetoric that it's harmful,
Sure.
but being presented with reality is what allows you to face it and do what you got to do to manage it and move forward.
And I would agree.
I don't think there's anything like that is inherently positive about being like, hey, you are weak. I get like reinforcement and like a bit of like a push, but I don't think there's anything positive about just being like, yeah, no, all depressed people are weak. If you have a friend who's depressed, you should work with them. You shouldn't just be a jerk to them and just be like, hey, weak so get off your butt, start moving.
Since we're talking about treatment, we're saying everybody here says men should seek treatment if they are depressed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What was treatment like for you? What was that?
It was hard at first, having to talk with a therapist, having to meet with the social worker weekly. But over time, it helped a lot and it got better and better. And that was an active choice that I made to no longer allow depression to affect me. So it absolutely is a choice.
Yes, but it's not that simple. Not everyone can operate in a clear state of mind when they're suffering depression. Not everyone can just be like, oh, I'm really affected, I need to do something about it. Oftentimes it takes a village.
Well, I wanted to ask a question to you. You said like, why would people stay very unhappy? Why would they choose to stay
like you just
unhappy?
kinda
And I would just
ignore
say to you, like, do you know anybody in a toxic relationship? Like, why would people stay in one of those relationships? And there's a lot of different reasons, but for you to say that you don't know why people would do that.
Fair enough, fine. But what I'm wondering is then, would you blame people who stay in toxic relationships and call them weak?
Yeah, absolutely.
And fair enough. And I think that is a harmful rhetorical statement to make that demonizes people within those relationships as if they are either primarily at fault for the situation that they are in. I agree that everyone has some sort of personal responsibility for the situation that they exist in, and if people are depressed, they do have a responsibility to do so. But I don't think we should primarily reduce it to a lack of will.
I don't
it's
think
not a
anyone
lack of
is.
will.
So
Yeah, Oliver nailed it.
Does anyone else work in mental health? Kind of? No? Currently, I'm undergoing my MFT program to become a licensed marriage family therapist right now. So I already work with people who have mental health issues. I already work as a caseworker, social worker, whatever you want to call it. And I won't push back on mental health as as it exists. If you're depressed, it's a weakened state of mind, like we said before, right? But I do want to push back on the idea that seeking treatment's easy, as someone who works in there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
As you guys were saying, that like getting over that first hurdle.
It's temporary. It's not permanent.
Yeah.
That's something that I would always tell myself. Me being homeless, sleeping underneath an MMA cage, getting ready to train the next day.
And
it's temporary. It's not permanent.
And
I think that Juma talks more to. I don't doubt that he was depressed by his situation, but I think he talks more to like a situational depression rather than like a thing due to like chemical imbalance, where chemical imbalance is just, it could happen for no reason. It could literally be no reason at all that you're now depressed. It just hits you, So Juma, I think, had a strong mindset about where he wanted to go and how he wanted to get there, and he used that strength to fight to get there in the physical world. I don't think he was really battling necessarily a mental hurdle, more so than it was just battling like the natural kind of thing of being like, I want to work hard, even though working hard is hard. I want to do it. That's just kind of the natural thing that like everyone deals with. Depression isn't necessarily just like a just like I need to work hard thing. It's like mud, like a bunch of mud all inside of your brain that covers up what you need to do, and you just cannot get there. Anything that you try to get yourself there, you have to wade through all the mud and work hard and hope that you can actually, be so conscious about what's happening to try and get to the end result. And the end result of wading through that mud is finally getting to a place where you can actually do something about it, which is like getting help. At least that's the way that I view it. I'm talking without hardly any knowledge at all. That's just the way that I think I've seen it be realized. I don't really know necessarily, so maybe I'm wrong, but at least that's what it seemed to be to me.
I have clients who have been homeless for 20 plus years, and just seeing how that 20 plus years of them pushing back treatment, pushing their time to get help, has ultimately jaded them to the idea of even seeking help in the first place. But a lot of that comes from those original ideas that mental health isn't real, or that, that their depression wasn't real.
All right, so let's hear from some of the men who are still seated. Why aren't you coming in for the middle ground prompt?
Yeah, so as a mental health professional,
Did he
obviously,
join?
like,
Or did he use the
it's not like
restroom?
I don't care and I
No,
don't
he
think
joined.
that, like, people should just do nothing, if they're depressed. I think the reason why I didn't step forward was because I feel like maybe I took the prompt a little bit, like, literally. So, like, I don't think every patient that is depressed needs to necessarily, like, be hospitalized. I guess maybe that's how I took it. It could look like outpatient treatment, or maybe like there's other things you can do. Like, I know for me, if I'm really anxious, like spending time with friends helps. The I am after affirmations app, like that really grounds me, and practicing
Did he
mindfulness and
just
like
like
going to the
go
beach
by
or
the
like
way this guy
shopping
interpreted
or
it, and that was just kind of it?
so I feel like
I want to reread the prompt for you. Men who are depressed should seek treatment. Do you not agree with that?
I'm saying that some people might hear that and think, oh, they need to be hospitalized. And I'm saying treatment doesn't have to be hospitalization. It can look a lot of different ways.
Right,
So
but
that's
if
why-
we broaden that interpretation of treatment, are you in the circle?
Probably, yeah.
All right then.
Come on in.
Yeah.
Well, not, okay.
Yeah. And I kind of want to say
All
something.
right, let's hear from somebody inside.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of like want to respond to that a little bit, because I actually used to agree with that. And there was a time in my life where I was like incredibly depressed, and also just so happens to be the time when I was the most addicted to porn. But that's neither here nor there. But for the longest time, I thought that I could just like fight it myself, kind of like, alpha male kind of vibes, just like, overcome, kind of like, stoicism type thing. Like I was really weakened in my faith at the time. So I didn't even feel like God could even help me, because it was just so bad. And I was just like so depressed and so lost. Growing up, even as a, evangelical Christian, is like therapy was kind of like stigmatized a little bit. It's just like talking to therapists is, that shows like a sign of weakness. And I was like, well, I'm a man. Well, I mean, I can't really show that side of weakness, but I'm just saying, when I was at kind of the lowest of low in my life, I almost wish that, like going back now, I would have seen like a Christian therapist or something like much sooner, because it is like, especially like with the porn thing and just being depressed, it's just like, it's really hard to come out of that yourself. Like you need community, you need people. And so I was actually in that side as I was going through that. But now that I'm out of it and kind of on the other side, I kind of understand why it's such like a big thing.
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I think that kind of speaks to what I said last time around, is that for a lot of traditional men, the way they view these things oftentimes comes through the lens of like their own personal experience. So without that experience to kind of dictate how they feel about the situation, oftentimes they kind of go with just like the classic, like he said, like the stoicism, the kind of you're a man, you're alpha, get over it kind of thing, because that's just kind of what they're taught and told by like other men, right? And that is why that rhetoric and a lot of traditional rhetoric is so harmful, because had Nils not sought treatment, had Nils not actually tried to get some help, and obviously now views as though if he would have went to a Christian counselor, then it could have been incredibly beneficial for him as soon as possible, right? So even then, it was already harming him, this traditional rhetoric, right? And now, had he not ever done it, if he had just continued to, I don't know what his life was like. I don't know what he was doing at the time. I don't know if he was with his wife at the time. I don't know any of that. But I think I could confidently say that whatever his life is now, I think it'd be very hard for him to have that, all of the good things that he does have, if he never sought treatment. Because it's a dark, horrible place to be in. And it is not easy to live your life while undergoing that experience, while undergoing those feelings and the way that you feel when you are in a depressive state. And so absolute hats off to everyone who's able to seek treatment. And again, this is just a part of a broader point that I think is super important, is that you're a traditional man, especially traditional anyone really. I would like for you to think about the times where you used to think something traditional, then you had a real world experience that changed your perspective. Because oftentimes that is the reality of the world, is that something seems, so trivial, like seeking treatment when you're depressed. And so you can view it with very little empathy, because in your mind it's simple, it's easy, just grow up, be a man. But until you're there, until you are dealing with it, you have no idea how hard it is. And that's why I think that it's important to view everything with empathy. There are a lot of things that people go through that I don't personally understand. I don't have necessarily like the empathy in my heart. Like I can't picture it. I can't realize it, what's going on. But I believe them when they tell me they're suffering. And when I hear that they're suffering, that is what, triggers the empathy in my heart, regardless of if I understand what they're going through, regardless of if regardless if I know what it feels like. If they're telling me they're suffering, I'm just going to believe them, because there's a lot less harm to believing someone is suffering than there is to not believing when someone's suffering and they are. I'd rather believe someone who is not suffering is suffering than I would not believe someone who is suffering, if that makes sense. I don't know if I said that right, but yeah. But I'm happy, really happy he was able to get treatment.
As a dating relationship coach, what I do with my guys, the problem is y'all can laugh all you want. You ain't got no game like I have. Laugh all you want. But anyway, as I was saying, was the problem is why depression is soft, because everybody can't be a man, and all lying. Everybody has to be a grassy and lying sometimes. Is because most of these guys, they're not honest. Now again, if you're depressed over something outside of relationships, I'm just talking about those. They were talking about relationships. A lot of these guys set expectations for women, and they have a lot of emotions and femininity, and they get all soft. And women don't like soft people. They like aggressive, dominant men who tell women what to do, not in a dictatorship way. But when you're soft and you're weak and you set an expectation for women, and then they say no to you, and then you all soft and brokenhearted, people don't like, excuse my language, a man who has a tighter than a woman. They won't respect those.
So are you saying, if you're seeking help with your depression, that makes you soft?
Well, yeah. Well, no. Okay. Yeah. If you okay, here's the thing: is you're not being honest with yourself, because you can go to therapy and sit there and have a guy say, how does that make you feel? Or you can look in the mirror and take this thing called accountability and sit there and say that, you know what, I'm the reason I'm depressed. It's not her fault.
Aww.
We can't sit around and point the finger at everybody else. We got to start looking at ourselves as men and not bunny rabbits. And sit around here saying, oh, the sky's falling because a girl doesn't like me, or I got to go to the gym because a girl doesn't like me.
There was a.
So I think quite literally, you just had a really straightforward example of Nils, had a very similar perspective to the guy. I won't say things word for word necessarily, but a very similar perspective, where it's like you have to take him down, accountability, it's your own thing. But then when he went through it, he comes out with a completely different perspective. And there are probably certain things that also has happened to the relationship coach guy as well. That the experience he had in something most likely changed his perspective by the time he was through it. I feel like that happens with most people. And you'll see that also, very interestingly enough, in my prompt that we'll get to later. But there's also another aspect that I think is interesting, like his idea of being like all women, they don't like when you're soft. They're like aggressive, hard men. It's like there are women out there who do like that. I would, no one is going to refute that. But the reason isn't because that's how women are. The reason is because all people are different. All people like all kinds of different things. There's no one way that there's no one type of woman that a man likes. There's no one type of man that a woman likes. All women have different ways of viewing different fellas. It's just how it is. There are different desires for everybody. It is not that complicated. But the idea of just saying like, oh, all women want an aggressive man, it's just silly. Just silly.
A lot there that I'm going to try my best to speak to. The first one, the reason why I wanted to speak to it is because I'm a black man. And growing up in black culture,
why was he so upset about it? I can't tell if he's laughing or not, but this guy's so upset about it.
I'm going to say a lot of us, not all, but I would say a lot of black men are taught to bottle up your feelings inside, not to cry, not to show women any emotion at all. And I would say a lot of men are taught that as well. From a toxic masculine perspective, we're taught, do not show any emotion because it is a sign of weakness. But even in the Bible, Joseph went behind closed doors to cry. And then he came out and he dealt with his business, right? So regarding to the things that he just said, treatment can mean a ton of different things. It could be, I'm going to call my wife up and seek counsel from her. I'm going to call my friends up. It could be going to the gym. It could be going for a run. It could mean a whole bunch of different things. It could be going to a therapist.
Said.
Treatment can mean so many different things as opposed to bottle up your feelings inside, don't show any emotion, and then all of a sudden it explodes. And then that's the worst alternative. So I just disagree with what he said because it feels like this counterintuitive process to actually what therapy is supposed to do, and that can mean a whole different ton of things in treatment.
Well, my contention is kind
of... All right. What Michael says, I think is a beautiful and an incredibly true sentiment, is that treatment can mean all kinds of different things for all kinds of different people. Because that is the true aspect, is that, treatment can be as simple as just going to the gym. Just changing up your life can be treatment for being in a depressive state, right? Just little things like that. Whether it be calling up your friends, calling up your partner, whatever it may be, those are like the little itty bitty things that can change a person's world. Now, obviously, it is not a replacement for stronger things like therapy and stuff like that. But the idea of someone who needs to change their life, who needs to get some kind of assistance, starting with those baby steps of, going to the gym, talking to their friends, spending more time with their friends, or trying to find just any different thing that makes them like feel happy or normal, right? Like one of my favorite streamers, her name is Cutie Cinderella, and she's been having a rough time lately, and so she has been spending some time in Utah, like away from like just kind of where her family's from, and just spending some time there, just kind of get away from like all the busyness in her life. And it's not a cure-all situation. She's still going through a rough time, but just to kind of change things up and help her feel better with a little bit of something that feels a little more normal, a little more grounded, right? It could be something that is a little more simple, just going and spending more time with your family, going home, And so I think that the idea of treatment is such a broad one that can be applied through many different ways and many different means. And so I really love Michael's interpretation. And I really think that Michael's an very interesting person that I'd gotten to speak to behind the scenes as well, because Michael's a gay man and a traditional man, and as you can imagine, that kind of can be real tough going through life with that combination. Now, while I don't agree with the fact that he's traditional, he has a very interesting, I think kind of one note sensibility about being traditional. Not necessarily a one note sensibility about being traditional, but one of his most important things is kind of the traditional. I guess it's not really my business to really kind of air it all out. But I think that when he talks about traditional, he talks more about how he wants to just live kind of like a nice life. I don't know how to explain it. Like an American dream life where you have a partner that you love and you have a family that you love, and you just live your life like that. And I think that the traditional side kind of really does make it seem as though like that's what they want and kind of advocates for that. And that's how I think people like Michael end up there, is that they just want a good life and they view like traditional like set values as something that couldn't get them that. But I truthfully don't think that that's the case. I think that you get a good life by living and doing what is good for you. And so yeah.
Kind of more so like a little.
And I hope Michael is able to do that. I hope Michael is able to live and do what is best for Michael. And well, obviously my real, my hope that comes along with that is maybe you kind of shed the traditional stuff, because you can see that with your peers here, they're not exactly the most, encouraging of anything. Not even talking about like being gay. I just mean like not encouraging of trying to live a happy life. It's just do things the way that we tell you to do it, and I can't imagine that being good for anybody.
A bit too self obsessed in a way, just for lack of a better word. Like it's too inward looking, and I feel like a man's role is to be more so outward looking, out in the world, taking care of business in the world. It's sort of analogous to I'm sure some of the red would agree. It would be analogous to like the woman taking care of like the private home life, and then the man taking care of like the world. And it's sort of like that way we're kind of like looking in a little bit too much. A lot of it seems like it is genuine trauma, but then there's also a lot of it that is like people from like they take slights from childhood and they exaggerate them to a certain level to where they become a little bit too obsessed. And I don't think you need some like psychiatrists that read a few books to tell you that you just need to be more self-reliant. You need to talk to yourself a little bit nicer and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's super reductive. It's a very reductive way of viewing it. Being like, some people take their childhood and they just let it affect them for the rest of their lives. Well, some people's childhood does affect them for the rest of their lives. I know people who have gone through some horrific stuff as children and are somehow still kicking like it's nothing. But, that's also a factor of luck. Like, not only are they strong people, but they got lucky that their brain doesn't have a terrible chemical structure that has, made them think about this stuff every day, or maybe they do even. How would I even know? But the idea that they outwardly present is they're very strong and been able to make it through. I don't know if that took therapy. I don't know if that took treatment. I don't know what that looks like. And I think that the idea of like, just if you're saying you're depressed, you're just exaggerating. It's just reductive. It's harmful, and there's no reason for it, man. Because you're trying to say that, if you spend too much time looking inward, you're not taking care of the real world stuff. Well, I tell you this, man, but if you are depressed and you're not feeling good on the inside, how are you going to get anything done? How are you going to get anything done if you're feeling awful inside? And then what is the point? What is the point of getting stuff done in your life if you feel miserable inside yourself? Say you have a wife, say you have a kid. You think it's still a good thing that you spend your life in misery just for their sake? What? You deserve love. You deserve happiness just as much as they do. Talk to your wife. Talk to your kid. Talk to your partner. Talk to your family. You shouldn't be living in misery just because you think it's the role of a man to live in misery and suck it up, It's just, everyone deserves happiness, even if you're a man.
Just to respond to what both of you said. So depression doesn't come because you're focused on certain slights. For the most part, it's due to a chemical imbalance in the brain, or it's a result of trauma. Hang up. I gave you a bunch of time to speak after I interrupted you at first, but then I gave you a bunch of time to speak.
One of the Cleveland Clinic researchers don't know the exact cause of depression, but contributing factors include brain chemistry, the chemical imbalance, genetics, stress, medical conditions, and medication. Here you go.
Now it's my turn. So what you're applying is you're saying, it's not a chemical imbalance, it's not due to trauma and not being properly treated, it's just because you're looking into yourself. What that's doing to someone who already has depression is actually making them more depressed. You're not offering them a solution, not offering them any sort of treatment. You're actually making them more sick with what they have. Now, I understand that you can shake your head all you want, brother, but listen, this is the... Brother, you're a pickup artist. Eat my... Oh, you loser.
You have no idea how derailed this ends up getting after that sentence.
No.
You can't. No, you don't get to stand there. Don't. No.
Hey,
No, put the chair away.
hey.
No, I don't.
I think it's fair. I think it's fair for him.
It's not. You don't get to stand up and say.
Otherwise, there'll be a problem.
Yeah,
What are you gonna do?
Hey, this is what
Hey,
I'm
quiet.
Be respectful. Be respectful.
Don't walk in.
I didn't lose my cool.
Don't walk
I didn't
in
lose my cool. Hey, this is what I'm saying. Nah. This is what I'm saying.
Hey, look.
You was disrespectful.
And then we're
Eat your
done.
Bro, hey, I'm gonna tell you right now. What time we out of here? We gonna find out.
No.
We gonna find out.
Hey,
oh,
no.
okay.
We can't.
And then you gonna call the police.
Hey, we
and
gotta be done. Hey, man, we gotta
and
be
then
done.
you gonna call the police, right?
We're gonna.
Yeah, I'm trying to tell you.
We're gonna have to
Hey,
ask you to
I'm
leave.
trying to tell you.
Hey, man, we're gonna have to ask you to leave.
I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you. Oh, no, you ask him to leave.
I'm gonna
that was
talk to him next.
disrespectful,
I'm
bro.
gonna talk to him next.
I was disrespectful.
I'm gonna talk to him, but this isn't helping.
John. He said, I'm going to talk to him, but this isn't helping.
I'm never gonna say. I apologize for being disrespectful.
You need to pause it.
And I apologize. I should have shown more respect. And to you, I apologize. I'm sorry. That was not in the spirit of what we're doing here. And I'm sorry.
And I'm sorry too, man. Because ultimately, I don't want to be. I thought
Neither do I.
we're all human beings. I respect everybody, man. I just want to be respected too. This is like my brother here, man.
Hey, guys, come over here. Can you come here for a second? John, can you come here for a second? Are we comfortable? Everybody quiet. Everybody quiet on set.
You know what's really funny about this, actually? Is that this is actually kind of how fast it happened. It really was a quick turnaround. You would think it kind of like got edited down, but it really was like maybe like 30 seconds, like a minute longer than what you actually see. Like they cut out like a little bit, but honestly, it was a very quick turnaround, which I at least appreciate that. Because the truth is that however you feel about what John said and however you feel about John, ultimately what he's viewing it as entertainment. It's very clear he's doing like some online sensationalization thing, and that's what he's going for. But you're talking to two unks, right? Two fellas who aren't really who've been around for a while. You know, they didn't grow up with this internet stuff where everyone is constantly, you know, pushing the boundaries to try and, you know, make some clips and act wild, you know. So it's very clear that it's just two completely different kinds of mindsets coming into something that is a hostile situation. And it's, you know, I know John doesn't mean it in the sense like, oh, he actually wants to like fight this guy 100%, right? Because he's coming to it as an entertainment perspective. But at the same time, you also have to be aware that, you know, not everyone is living on the internet and not everyone is viewing these things as, you know, internet drama or little beef things, right? It can get wild. It can get wild. And so it's very impressive that they came together, figured it out, got it done as quick as they did. And so, yeah. Now, like I said, at this point in time, for me, I'm just sitting back here. I somewhere ducked behind all of these people. Not like ducking, hiding. I didn't really have any intention of speaking during this, so I was just listening. And so when this happened, I was like, oh my word. And poor old Abram, my Lynchian friend, he's like, oh, I shouldn't have done this. I don't like this. I didn't want this to happen. You know, and I felt so bad for him. I was like, it's okay. Don't worry. It'll get figured out. It'll get solved. Because I know John's just doing internet drama. And I guess in all truth is I didn't know how Mr. 1950 and I think his name's Steve, right? Or Dean, Steve, I think. I didn't know how they were going to necessarily continue to press the issue or not. But ultimately I figured it'd be fine. And ultimately it was. But man, yeah, that escalated real fast.
I apologize. Sorry, John.
Everybody take
Sorry, John.
a deep breath, and then let's focus on what we're disagreeing on. Let's focus on the issues.
So I disagree with the prompt because I don't think we
back
should
into-
seek pharmaceutical treatment because I'm against pharmaceuticals. You're just going to ruffle some feathers, but I don't believe in depression as a mental illness or a mental disorder.
Okay, so real quick. Being against pharmaceutical companies or big pharma, I feel like a lot of people get this mixed up Like, I don't think they ever think about it. Because you take Motrin just fine. You take ibuprofen just fine. You take medicine just fine. It's never the medicine that you have to worry about, really. Unless it's like some super crazy edge cases, some government weird stuff that happens. But that's not like a mass issue. At least not any historical ones that I can remember. But anyways, the reason why people don't like Big Pharma, or the reason why most people are like, oh, Big Pharma, is because of the profit motive. It's not because of the medicine. You trust the medicine to work. You just don't trust the profit motive behind these big pharmaceutical companies. Because the truth is that we should not be charged as much as we are for medicine or for healthcare. We shouldn't be charged at all for healthcare. It's a joke. It's a ridiculous thing. So I think maybe I just haven't heard the argument for it, but I literally can never take these people seriously when they say they're against Big Pharma without actually like giving a good reason as to why like Big Pharma's medicine is bad, you know? Like, it's always just, they just say they're against Big Pharma, but they don't ever clarify why they're against Big Pharma. And I think that, you know, an important part of that is to explain, you know, is it the profit motive, which makes a lot of sense, or is the medicine, which doesn't make sense? Because as far as I know, Big Pharma has been batting pretty good when it comes to medicine, as opposed to not batting very good when it comes to medicine.
Order. I believe in it as an experience that is caused by external factors that are in your control. And if you guys say, oh, he's bullshitting, I have a bachelor's in psych, a master's in counseling, I decided to not do the therapy path because I didn't believe in those practices. So for anyone that's experiencing this, it's all...
So what path is he taking? Like criminology? What other path is there other than therapy? I don't know. I'm ignorant.
External factors. And I'll ask you guys this, whoever believes in pharmaceuticals, for the chemical imbalance that's been proven wrong for 30 years. Did you ever get tested for your chemical imbalance before you were prescribed pharmaceutical drugs? The answer is no. You did not get an fMRI. You did not get a urine test or a blood test that tests serotonin. You did not do a PET scan that does to monitor the serotonin within your brain. So I'm just letting you guys know these are pushed on as a way for Big Pharma to push that depression is real. And I just believe it's an experience that everyone will experience differently, but it's not something that you can't control. And also, if you don't believe in it, how can it be real? If I don't believe in it, because you can't objectively measure it.
Yeah.
It's a psychiatric opinion, and it's a doctor's opinion, and there's no objective way to measure it.
What would...
Because I think depression takes many different shapes and forms. Again, I can't speak to what he's saying about his own degree and things. What I can speak to is the idea that, yes, I understand that Big Pharma may have an incentive to try and push pharmaceuticals on you. Again, the idea being that these pharmaceuticals are working. So if the medicine doesn't work, guess what? You just stop taking the medicine. And if it does work, well, then it works. I don't understand what is so complicated with that. It's really that simple. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm stupid. But if I go to a doctor and the doctor's like, hey, give me $50 for this medicine. Well, I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. You know, maybe it's a waste of $50, but it's better than doing nothing. And so I give it a shot. You know what? It makes you feel great. It makes you feel like I'm on cloud nine. Well, guess what? I'll give him another $50 because it worked really good, and I'll keep doing it. That's all. It's all that simple. And if it didn't work, guess what? I'll be like, okay, well, I'm not seeing that doctor about that again. Got screwed over. Well, maybe I'll try some other thing. I don't know. But the idea is simple. It's not the end of the world, you know, if you try to get medicine and see if it works for you or not. Maybe it's a placebo. I don't care. As long as I feel better, I do not care. You could give me sugar, and I'll be happy.
What would you say to a man, though, who is in a, you know, subjectively in a state of depression, if not seeking treatment?
Oh, I said I'm fine with seeking treatment, just not pharmaceuticals. I'm against pharmaceuticals.
So you're pro
your
treatment
first
as
your
long as
first thing for anything, if you're feeling depressed, is you do the 5 components of your physical health: your diet, exercise, sun intake, hydration, and sleep. Those are your first 4. Then you could go to spirituality, you go to accountability routine, you could fix your social connections, but you don't need a drug to tell you to alter your brain to tell you have a disease that's not objectively measured.
Okay. I mean, it's mental health. Very few things are objectively measured, have the ability to be objectively measured in mental health. Maybe I'm talking about, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I have a feeling that's probably the case, but maybe I'm wrong. But what's it called? I don't object with the idea of you should, you know, try doing more, small tangible things rather than necessarily going directly to medicine. But again, I don't think there is a huge harm in going directly to medicine either. Again, you're not gonna die. You're not gonna have like some horrible issue happen to you for taking medicine. Like, unless you literally get prescribed something you're allergic to, which then you have a bad doctor. There's so many factors that go into this that I don't think are nearly as harmful as he's presenting it when he's like, oh, you don't ever go to Big Pharma, you know? So I don't know. I really don't. But the idea is simple of like being like trying to find and do more immediate things in your life. Yeah, 100%.
I just want to respond really quickly to the guys over here. So the reason I got up is because I was sitting down is because it said seek help. It didn't specify how help. I agree with you. If you're feeling depressed, internally look, deal with it yourself, get up, I'm a Christian, I turn to Christ, turn to God, deal with it myself, get back up and do it. That's help. I mean, it's not pharmaceutical help. I completely agree with what Steve said about strength and being an accountable man. I completely agree with what was said over here. I just think that the reason I stood up was because I see help in many different ways. I acknowledge it. I'm not at my best right now. Let me get at my best. Let me do what I have to do. Let me speak to God, speak to my family, that kind of thing.
Just very quickly, I second that, by the way. I just wanted to say that as men, we should be uplifting and helping and inspiring each other. When it comes to depression, whether you believe it's your fault or not, whether you believe it's real or not, whether you believe it's a disease or not, it does affect people, and we see what happens. The ramification of it is suicide. Taking your own life. I can speak to that personally as well. I did attempt to take my own life 3 times, and the reason why I mention it is just because 80% of men make up the suicide rates, which is 5 times that of women, and it's due to depression and primarily loneliness. And so I think if men reached out to other men, a lot less of that would be happening.
So there's such an incredibly open and honest and heartfelt way of approaching the situation that I wish Victor would apply to any other situation in his life. Again, the idea, like, he's the one who came up and he was like, simple bros, scripture for women. Like, you really think that that's helpful ideology to pass around to other men? Is just being like, oh, it's simple, you wear this, psh, you're a woman, or you're acting like a woman. Why can't you just preach positivity all the way around about making sure people are happy? No one is telling you to wear a skirt. No one is telling you have to like men wearing skirts or think that it's cool or looks good or whatever. It doesn't matter. If you really truly believe that men should be uplifting other men, then I don't understand how you take these positions through these traditional positions that are constantly like leaning towards oppressing what men are doing. I just don't.
I think, like, as far as you go, I largely, especially working in the field now, I largely agree that overall, I think there's a lot of different ways for treatment. It's not just pharmaceuticals, it's not just therapy for somebody. But I think at the end of the day, there are some people who do need pharmaceuticals, specifically those with a drug-induced schizophrenia. Being in the field, I don't know if you worked in the public sphere as well. That's something I see a lot every day. And those people without their medications can't function at all. Overall, I think that there has become an over-reliance on medications within the mental health field. But I think that's a symptom of the idea that mental health is something that is as treatable as a cold. It's something that can be just wiped away with a couple of pills. Whereas I think it does matter what your group is. It does matter, who you hang out with. It does matter what you think about yourself overall. Like, that's just that's kind of the main idea with depression too.
I think the over.
It has to be well said. Absolutely. Every time he speaks, I love it.
Reliance on pills is also a symptom of the pharmaceutical industry and their lobbying towards giving more and more patients more and more to the bottom line. But the reason I switch, because everyone seems to be inviting people back in every time they say they like this version of treatment, but that version of treatment. The reason I sat down after the first doctor talked was essentially because I fundamentally have always kind of had this belief that you treat mental health the way you treat physical health, in the sense that if you break your leg, go to the goddamn hospital. But if when you fell, you just scraped your knee, stand up, suck it up and keep moving. So it's.
I don't think that's necessarily wrong. I don't think any. Okay. Sure. There are going to be some people who go and overreact to things. It's not a big deal, though. Again, I don't see what the big deal is of someone, like, even if they don't have clinical depression, right? If they're feeling sad and they go and get an upper, I don't think that's the craziest thing in the world. It makes them feel better. as long as they don't get addicted to that, right? Well, then that's a whole different issue. A whole different issue that then they have to seek treatment for that problem, right? But I don't really think that's a large issue that people are getting hooked on medication because they think they're depressed. I think oftentimes people who are depressed probably do get hooked on medication because they're depressed and they just want to no longer be depressed, you know? But I don't think anyone just like oh, I just need to feel good. I don't know. Again, these are a lot of things that I don't know as much about as I'd like to, but I also don't necessarily think that it is an objective truth that majority of people who are just feeling a little sad go to the doctors and like just try and get hooked up with something. I don't know. I guess I can't speak to it, but ultimately, like, people are just trying their best to be happy, and we got to try and work our way around that. We try and make sure that we are doing our best to make people happy and make their lives good. And it's not always going to be perfect, but we do our best. It is better for people who do not need the treatment to get some treatment than it is for people who don't need it's better for people who do not need the treatment to get treatment they don't need than it is for people who do need the treatment not get it. There you go.
That's why it's not always like, oh, does this need a treatment protocol for more vitamin D by going for a 10-minute grounding walk barefoot? No, we don't need to systematize everything. Just like for the smaller stuff, just be normal and like push yourself to be a better version of yourself, and that'll resolve most of it.
I think what you are touching on here is the fact that there are different levels.
Are they sharing a notepad? I just realized it. Wasn't that notepad in his hand a second ago? Oh, sorry. Wasn't that notepad in his hand a second ago?
Levels of severity with depression.
Sure.
Right? Like have you heard of treatment-resistant depression?
I mean,
it's what it basically is what it sounds like. You know,
yeah,
the treatments don't really work, and there are a lot of, you know, I'm not in the health field, but there are a lot of physical measures of depression. Depression is a physical illness. You have reduced hippocampal volume, that's part of your brain. You have differences in your serotonin, your dopamine.
Atrophy in the hippocampus is possible after prolonged major depression. Low serotonin and dopamine levels can cause depression. Cortisol, the stress hormone, can also fight depression.
No fair, you got notes.
Your cortisol goes up. Your inflammatory markers go up. You can see differences in the electrical connectivity in your brain. Depression might not even present the same way, right? Like it could be episodic. So I think that we're having kind of a reductionist conversation where a lot of people are thinking about their personal experiences, and they are taking their personal experiences and using that to infer what should be done. Whereas, like, for example, I cut my finger the other day. I drove myself to the urgent care and I got it stitched up. If it had been a less bad cut, I would have slapped a Band-Aid on it. If I had shot my arm off, I'm not driving, right?
Exactly.
So I think that a lot
Very
of
well
this
said
depends
from my
on
man, Greg.
factors that we're not considering, and I think that's just something that is an important context to add to this conversation.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fact checks in this video. Straight Arrow News is an app and website that is on a mission to raise the bar on journalism in a
Ethical
time
reacting.
of media bias
Gotta
and
leave it in.
mistrust. Their team of journalists believe that unbiased news should be the standard and not just the exception. So they report down the middle with facts, delivering news without bias, filter, or spin. Plus, their Media Mist tool allows you to discover news that's being underreported or not even reported at all by different sides of mainstream media. That's why we're so happy to be partnering with Straight Arrow News. The work they're doing gives us a complete picture of the news straight from our phones and tablets with their app. Go to san.com/middleground or click the link in the description to check it out. By clicking the link, you're not just supporting this channel, you're also supporting a group of journalists that are raising the bar on news and focusing on serving you unbiased, straight facts. Thanks again to Straight Arrow News for partnering with us on this episode. Now let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Should men be the leaders in romantic relationships?
Okay. John, my main man, the host, John right here, screws me over huge, big time. I'm going to show you how he did that.
That was the question in part one, and our middle ground statement was,
if a man is failing in his leadership role, then a woman should be able to step up.
Yeah, I agree with that. A woman should be able to step up if her man is failing as a leader.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, man. It's been a pleasure.
Okay. Now, not the craziest statement in the world, right? Not perfect. It doesn't encapsulate, a lot of things I'd like it for it to encapsulate, such as gay relationships. However, it's something that we worked hard to get just to try and make sure that, I think again, I'm so proud of our conversation. I think it was the most productive and therefore the most boring conversation out of all of them, because I think we both tried our hardest to make it work. However, John just decides, you know what I'm gonna do today? I'm just gonna screw him over. Because listen to what John says.
If you agree, go in.
Oh, John, it doesn't even happen yet. Hold on. It's gonna happen in a second. Okay, well, hold on. Let's back up for a second, because oh my goodness. So you'll notice it's just me. It's only me going up here. Not anyone. Not the traditional, not the progressive. It's just me. And you can see the look on my face. I'm like, what? I didn't know it would be this controversial. I had no idea. No one talked to me about it. I didn't hear anything about it at all at this point in time. So when I got up, I was gobsmacked. And you know, I've been sitting next to Ryan this whole time. Ryan's in the restroom. And you know something, I hoped, oh, maybe if Ryan was here. But you know what? Ryan's gay. Why would Ryan be up here for me either? I didn't know what I was thinking, because then Ryan comes back and he's sitting down. And I'm like, oh, what did I just do? And like I in my mind too, I'm thinking about, okay, why would they not be okay with this? You know, it wasn't crossing my mind really all the things that's leaving out, all the aspects of it that don't quite work, and aspects of it that make it a controversial statement. I'm trying to think over all these things, so that way I'm not, you know, making a jerk out of myself, because, you know, if I'm the only progressive guy getting up, it's not a good look. Especially when all of a sudden over here, we've got some activity. When they see I'm the only person walking up, we have some activity. As you can see, even Nils is sitting down. Nils, we did that together, Nils. How are you going to sit down for this? And luckily, out of nowhere, Aldo, the traditional man, out of all of these, the one who is leading the charge in trying to make traditional be the way of the world, he comes up for my statement. Blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. Again, even at this point in time, I didn't realize that I was the only one coming up. At least I don't remember realizing. I thought that some traditional were also coming up, but no, it was just me. And then Aldo changes his mind. He goes up. Nils, thank everything. Nils, you know, he changes his mind as well. He comes up, and I don't know why. I would like to ask him one day what made him decide to step up in this situation. I think he does say a little more in a bit. I don't really remember how this all went down. I was more stressed about the fact, like, oh no, did I make an ass out of myself about the situation? I have no idea. But you'll notice things get real wild real fast. Because then he comes up, another super trad, and he comes up. Now, he had a whole prompt that got cut out. You guys didn't get to see it. But he had a whole prompt about religion versus, like, can you be a moral man if you're religious and everything? They cut out his prompt. So, again, I'm operating off the idea that everyone that has joined me at this point, Nils is traditional, but I don't think he was really fighting for it as much as these fellows were fighting for it. I guess I'd actually lump him more in the Nils category, kind of as well. Kind of. But I was gobsmacked, and I was blindsided by my team. But it was just absolutely nuts. I felt so strange.
You know, I'll start with a personal anecdote.
And then also, you don't see it? He makes it up as well. Look at this lineup. It's just me. It's only me. I don't know how that happened. I have no idea how I ended up in here. It's like the record scratch moment. Like, yep, that's me. Bet you're wondering how I ended up here. Surrounded by traditional, and traditional. Ah, damn. Juma came up here, and you know what he said to me? He looked me in the face, and he said, I didn't think I'd end up agreeing with you. It's like, what? What just happened? How did I end up here alone? And I haven't seen this video yet, so I don't even remember what I said. I'm curious to see how I said it. But again, I genuinely believe that a part of the reason why I'm up here alone is because John, when he says the prompt, he says it wrong. He says the middle ground statement wrong. He does it multiple times, which makes me think that I'm going crazy.
My family, we try to be traditional. We're a
Okay,
Roman
I'm sorry.
Catholic household.
I'm getting all wrapped up in my drama. But the truth is, about this particular middle ground, is I think this is, again, the most probably boring out of all of them, but the most effective. Because this really does speak to the idea of traditional men who experience something and then get the empathy and the understanding for it, rather than perceiving it ahead of time or being able to have empathy without having to go through something. And I think that this really exemplifies it. I think everyone shares a story here and their experiences here that I think really did inform their perspective on this particular idea. And again, my hope is that you no longer require your own situation to really empathize, and that you are able to empathize without having to go through this, without having to go through situations that make you empathize, essentially. Now you'll see I don't exactly agree with some of their takeaways. You'll see that. But the idea that everyone is up here because they have an experience that really did shape their way of thinking on this was definitely something to behold for me. Like, again, I really don't agree with 99% of the things that Aldo says. But his truthfulness about what he's about to say is something that I think is probably one of the big takeaways from this video.
Anecdote. My family, we try to be traditional. We're a Roman Catholic household. And the reason I say that the woman should stand up if the man is failing is because that's something that I saw in my childhood and in my family. My dad is the leader of our household. He always has been, and he was the breadwinner for my childhood. And in a single year, he lost his business, had a heart attack, and his father died, which he started his business with. And that was a bad time in our childhood. In our family life. They hid it from us kids growing up, and we had a great childhood, so that's great. But I look back at my mom, who stuck with my dad through that. She went back to work. She was a stay-at-home mom her entire life, and she stuck with him. And she went back to work, and she got him through that. And the entire time, she always looked at my dad with loving eyes, always looked at him as the leader, always saw him.
You can see, like, I can see my own smile like start to form, because it's like that's the most human that I've seen this guy this whole time, is when he's just talking about his own experience, about like how much his mom means to him. And obviously his father means a lot to him too, but to watch his mom go through that and walk away with that kind of perspective, it's like, I just wish that he would hold on to that more when he looks at the ideas of a relationship and the ideas of how amazing women are. Just, they're just human beings. Amazing men, amazing women, amazing non-binary people, transgender people, doesn't matter. Human beings are amazing. They're also awful, but they're also amazing, regardless of anything, regardless of gender, regardless of sexuality, regardless of anything. And so, I don't know. I hear that. It makes me very happy to hear that he has this perspective. It shows me that there is a human aspect underneath all of this. Because for a while, I thought that this was just going to be like a conservative kind of traditional pundit guy who didn't really have many convictions. But to hear him speak about like this, I'm glad. I'm really glad that he chose to do that.
As the man of the house, but she stuck with him. And as a kid, being able to see that relationship, see that marriage, that was something really important, and I think something kind of unique nowadays, that I got to see that. And especially in a Christian household, that's something that we believe, that you get married and you are together for life. And especially nowadays, I see a lot of relationships like that, or even a lot more minor things, that those relationships wouldn't last. And so while I know a lot of guys on this side might be thinking, well, if the man isn't, sticking up to it, then that woman should find a new man. I understand maybe some of what you guys are thinking, and you'll tell me in a second. But that's something I thought about for my own life, and I think that's
interesting too, because I'm up there alone. Aldo at least has like 5 other guys came with him, and even he's like, trying to like kind of look to his side, like, come on, like, right? And I definitely was like, to my side. So yeah,
something that we should all want in a relationship.
Let's hear from someone else here. You're standing by your statement.
I guess I'm not too sure what my progressive brethren are going to say up here. I guess I do understand that maybe the prompt says something, or the middle ground statement says something that may be misinterpreted, at least maybe I'm misinterpreting it. The way that I view if a man is failing, then the woman should step up isn't necessarily like if a man is failing, it is your responsibility to fix it to the woman. More so that it shouldn't just be that a man should be able to tell a woman, no, I'm still going to keep doing what I'm doing, and you do not have a say in this because I'm the man. I believe that it's a partnership. I think 100%, no matter what's happening in the relationship, as long as you're both working together and you're both trying to make sure that you have a successful life together and a successful life for your family, then that's all that matters, regardless of the leadership roles. Not necessarily that one person needs to lead or the other person needs to lead. More so, we all just need to work together because that's what we got married to do and that's what we agreed to do because that's what the partnership is.
That's pretty much everything that I said last time. Honestly, I was pretty one note in the argument because it's just the correct note. Like, ultimately, if you got a power cord, what else do you need at the end of the day? And so, yeah, I stood by it. But yeah, I wasn't too sure what their hangup was at the time. I understood afterwards that from the conservative side, actually, the traditional side actually came out and was like, well, I'm a gay man. Michael did. So it doesn't apply to me. And I was like, I wish, I get that. I 100% get that. I don't think I would ever be able to come to a middle ground statement with Nils. No offense to Nils about this, but we already had a hard enough time just getting that. I don't know if we'd ever be able to encapsulate gay relationships as well, unfortunately. And I really did think that there was a value to getting a middle ground statement where both of us were unhappy. Both of us were a little unhappy with it, and that's what we did. So I didn't get to include gay relationships, and Nils had to concede on the point that women should lead, which I don't necessarily equate the two, but that was both of us trying to just work with one another, and that's how we got what we got. So I understood the perspective, and I understood why the majority, damn near every progressive man, decided to remain seated for the prompt. It's a very tough prompt because, again, like I said earlier, John messed me up as well. The way that again, you can see the prompt or the middle ground statement is should be able to step up. That is not what John said.
Let's hear from.
I'll take this.
Oh,
one
you're coming in
to start off with, if you don't mind. The reason why I cannot join you all typically in the middle is because I'm gay. So that whole entire argument
absolutely
is completely has a wrecking ball because how I view relationships.
Yeah, the way that they edited it made it seem like I was just like, okay, that is not. I just touched my face a lot, but no, when I heard that, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't, makes a lot of sense.
From a homosexual male to male, when I mean relationship, it's more of a partnership. Now, yes, I've had great, experiences where my mom and dad have been together for over 40 years and they love each other. And I've seen where my dad has taken the blow and my mom has had to step up. But that doesn't apply to my circumstance because as a gay man, sometimes it's 50-50, sometimes it's 30-70. It just depends. And it's not cut and dry.
Yeah, that's another aspect where the way that I viewed it, I think I talked about it in the last video, but the way that I viewed it was talking about a specific situation where it is a man and a woman, and the man has failed. And that was what it was. It's not a general. I mean, this is the thing is like, I guess it is a general rule for a specific type of relationship. If you're in a relationship where a man and a woman have agreed to be together, and the man and the woman had agreed that the man was going to be the leader, and just because they thought that was the best thing to do at the time, and that's what they both wanted, and then all of a sudden the man is failing, and the woman's like, okay, no, I should be able to step up, then there should be nothing inhibiting that. They should be partners. The woman should be able to step up, and life should be able to continue and be good because they're working together. That's talking about, it's a very specific middle ground for very specific circumstance that does not encapsulate everything that a relationship is and ought to be. And I think that's why this middle ground statement in particular was a rough one to get people to agree with. Because you saw Greg went up there with me. Greg leaves me too. Sorry to spoil it. Greg changes his mind again because of friggin' Oliver. Friggin' well-worded, articulate Oliver. He makes Greg abandon me too.
So I think that we're still sitting here because that middle ground basically affirms the initial question that men should lead. But if he can't lead, that's when the woman. So that implies then that men should lead.
And you see my face on here because, again, I don't blame him for getting there. It's the middle ground statement. It kind of screws everyone over a little bit. The thing about it is that I don't believe that. To me, it's I get how he gets to the conclusion that the middle ground statement reaffirms the idea that men should lead. That wasn't what I was trying to do. To me, again, the middle ground statement comes to it is talking about a specific situation where the man has been chosen to lead in this partnership. They decided that they wanted a leader and that this will be the leader, and it's the man. It is not talking about all relationships should have a leading man. That was at least the way that I perceived it. So again, I don't believe that any of what has been said so far against this prompt, I don't believe any of it is wrong at all. I think that is a very unfortunate set of circumstances that have led to this particular middle ground, for whatever reason, being interpreted in so many different ways that it's impossible for anyone to really agree on it.
So that's, and most of us take an egalitarian view that it's like a partnership. So that's why we're still here.
Because that's what I said. I've been saying it's partnership. I've been saying it's partnership since day dot. But it's just because of the wording of the statement, and the director was very clear, like, you should only go if you agree 100% with the statement. And now, I didn't actually agree 100% with the statement. To be like, obviously I'm talking about it now, but it was my statement, and I thought that I had to stand by what I said and at least try and talk more about it and get more exploration in this conversation about that statement. And so that was the main reason why I went up. Not because I was like, yes, this is the best statement of all time, but just because, listen, we worked hard to get to this statement, and that, I think, was much more important than the statement itself. At least that's how I felt.
Because women should lead only if the man can, you know what I mean? So that's kind of the caveat right there.
I struggled with that as well. I came over here. What was your name again? Sorry. Kino. Yeah, Kino got me over here because I was, a lot of this for me, I've been struggling with how literally to take all these prompts. And the way he described it, I do agree with his framing. I do agree as well that, we shouldn't assume that one gender is taking the leading role. I do think a good part of an interdependent relationship is if one person is in a role, whatever that role is, or whatever those roles are, and they hit a speed bump, the other person kind of steps in. I'm married. I've been married for 10 years.
See, again, like, nobody is agreeing on what this means. And Greg's interpretation, again, is like, none of us are really disagreeing with one another. We're all just kind of disagreeing with our own interpretations of what this means.
I'm gay, so I also relate to my fellow gay man's confusion about some of these things. But there's been times where, I have really struggled and my husband has stepped up and vice versa. So in that framing of the prompt, I agree, and that's why I came over here. But I do agree that some of the implications are uncomfortable if you look at it a certain way.
The reason why I'm sitting over here is because I think that no matter what adversities we face, like being someone that's married close to 20 years, sure, it's okay to have those moments, but it's not my wife's duty to step up. It's maybe, her duty in a relationship to remind me that, like, hey, I understand you're going through something, hey, you just got fired, or hey, you're going through something tough. It's good to hear her kind of be like, hey, don't worry, like, I'm here, but it's not her job now to be like, all right, it's time for me to step up and like start making more money because you're making less money. It's never okay because.
So what, you guys just go bankrupt? What was the alternative? What are you talking about? There's no alternative there.
Because it also creates like this continuous back and forth of maybe even creating like a dependence on my wife. I'm like, oh, it's okay to be weak, or it's okay to fail in my traditional roles as a man because my wife's got me anyway.
You guys are partners. You guys should have each other. It is literally that simple.
And so I think that'll build like a tolerance in my head of like, oh, it's okay to, be weak 6 months out of the year, or, oh, the next time we face adversity, it's just best I can just kind of kick back because my wife.
It's not about kicking back. It's about your partner being able to kick in without you having to, open your big mouth and be like, oh, no, you shouldn't be kicking in.
It's going to step up. And I think that sends a message to her that, like, to this day, praise God, there's never been a time where she's looked at me and she's like, wow, like, what's kind of like, what's wrong with this? Why aren't you fighting for us, for this family, for our home, for our children?
She's your wife, dude. If her love for you is conditional on the fact that you have to like have some kind of masculine traditional role, it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. You're telling me she's not gonna love you if you decide that all of a sudden, you know, maybe you don't want to spend every day of your life having to you know, fight every single day. Maybe you get weak sometime. You're telling me that she just leaves you because you got weak for a little while? You got depressed or something? It's just nuts, man. It's just nuts. Where's the love? That's not love. That's obligation. Call me crazy. I think men should be loved just as much as men love women. Maybe I'm nuts. I don't know. Nuts.
Can I go quick? I think the reason I'm not in this circle is you're never going to win me over on this idea that relationships should fundamentally be structured by one person leading another. I don't. That is not the way my brain comports. You know, you can talk to me all day about it until you're blue in the face.
I wonder what he whispered to him. Yeah, I like what Oliver's saying. I don't necessarily think this. Yeah, I don't think. Again, no one's disagreeing with one another. That's what drives me nuts about this freaking prompt. Because I'm sitting here in the middle in a sea of red, and I feel like I'm nuts. But I feel like we're all. No one's disagreeing with one another. At least none of the progressives are disagreeing with one another. Really, like Oliver's opinion on the idea that, you know, there does not need to be a leader relationship. It doesn't fly in the face of the idea of partnership. You know, about. If Oliver was in a relationship and Oliver's partner was like, hey, like, you know, it's not even really a conversation you had. If Oliver's partner is just more submissive, like, and Oliver takes the lead in more things, I don't think Oliver would all of a sudden, you know, be like, oh, I don't think I should be leading things around. You know, I think that, you know, you should be stepping up. You know, I don't think that's the way Oliver would view it. You know, I think that whatever is working for them and making them happy is the way that they'll work, right? Unless Oliver's unhappy with leading. Well, there you go. Then you're in an incompatible relationship where one person feels as though, okay, well, I wanted you to be able to be the person who steps up more, whatever. It doesn't matter. Relationships are case by case, different things for different strokes for different folks, always. And I think that you will do simply whatever makes you happy. Maybe Oliver does not want to be in a relationship where he is a leader, and that's cool. That doesn't fly in the face of what anybody has been saying so far. At least I don't know necessarily. I haven't really analyzed what it looks like when you talk about the traditional arguments, but I don't think it does there either, really. So that's what drives me the most nuts about this particular middle ground, is that none of us were really disagreeing with one another. We all, I think, felt very similarly. It's that the middle ground statement is the one thing that gets tossed back and forth as to what it means. Like, the relationship does not need a leader. Absolutely, like Oliver is saying. However, relationships do have leaders sometimes, and that's cool too. I think that's why this whole thing feels very silly.
I fundamentally do think it should be a partnership between two people. And what you said over here, this idea of, oh, you know, I can't be weak around my wife if I'm vulnerable with her, if I, you know, disclose to her what's going on, or however you want to frame it. Like, I think that's so harmful, because for me, my partner should be the person who I'm most comfortable being my vulnerable self with.
Absolutely. Your partner doesn't love you if you can't be vulnerable with them.
If I can't be that myself with that person, I'm not going to be with that person. And I think, like, this idea that you just always have to tough it out no matter what leads to people just spinning their wheels. The problems often don't get better. They just get worse because people can't lean on the people in their life that they are designed to be able to lean on. So I think this whole idea that if you're ever going to put the word lead in a relationship that isn't through a corn maze, I am not going to agree with that type of statement.
Okay, see, now, it's a very funny thing that he said. I don't think that, again, I understand what he's saying. I don't think it necessarily, again, flies in the face of what the idea is that, well, again, it's about the middle ground statement more than anything, because to me, the middle ground statement is that two partners decided together that one would take the lead more than the other. And that's it. Not that one person just stepped up, automatically became the leader, and told the other person what to do for the rest of their lives, you know? In at least the way that I viewed it, two partners agreed they wanted a leader, and there they go. In my personal relationship, I'm more of the leader on certain aspects, you know? It's not because I demand to be. I don't really care one way or the other. It's just that I guess I just have chosen to do more things and she just goes along with me. And then when she chooses to do something, I go along with her. I don't even know how to explain it. This is like, it feels dumb to say it like that too. Like, ultimately, I don't necessarily feel like a leader in my relationship. I just feel like a partner, and I just feel like I'm the most annoying person in the relationship, and that's why we oftentimes do a lot of things that I want to do, is because I'm just annoying, and I'm like, oh, you want to go do this? And that's really all it comes down to. The biggest thing that I do leading in my relationship is picking what movies to watch, and even then I get on her nerves. So I just don't think I don't think any of us are disagreeing, and that's the big thing.
Yeah, I think that's pretty crazy. Can I just respond real quick, just because you really talked to me real quick? I'm not saying you can't be reliable. I have other sources that I go to. So I have people that I go to, like if I'm, if
Outside of your wife, who are you going to? That's wild.
if I have a brother that I have a great relationship.
That's
I
better
have people at church.
than
I
just
have
a
a men's
stranger?
group as well. I go to them.
Okay, well, you tell me that the people at church and the people in your men's group come before your wife in like showing your true full self to them? It's just sad.
Because they're more experienced as male leaders that believe in the same things. Of course, I'm not going to win you over, but that's why you're on that side and you're wearing blue.
Okay, fair enough.
But let's just move past that disagreement.
We all talk about like how it's supposed to be a partnership, and the reason I'm here is because a partnership also, I know you're gonna hate this, but delineating in a business sense, a partnership has different responsibilities. It has people who are best at certain things. When it comes to even depictions of Hindu deities, there's one famous depiction where the body is physically split in half, one side man, one side female. Because here's the thing, leadership is a, can I swear, shitty job. Leadership is a shitty job, and it's a menial job. What do women have? Women have the power to give birth, create life, to generate and guide the next generation. That is a far more useful purpose of like basically being like the Marie Curie and like guiding the growth of a nation, rather than, oh, I've got to figure out what we're doing for like checks and balances.
We lost Greg. Greg leaves me. He is a freaking Oliver and all his fancy talk.
Is that leading? Is that leading? What do women do in that sense? Is that leading? Because they're
creating.
But you're putting what men do in this category of leadership. Men lead. What women do, that's not leadership.
Listen, people have been throwing rhetorical versus literal all day today to an annoying sense. Literally, leadership just means to lead for like making a decision. Now, anyone that's here that's married, I'm not married, but anyone here that's married, no one's taking a decision like in a vacuum without their partner. That's the quickest way to divorce. They're all taking into consideration. So the word leadership, because of all like the toxic masculinity, red pill bullshit on YouTube, sounds bad to people's ears these days, but a man's job is to create order. A woman's job is to create the universe. Let him
I don't even know. I genuinely have no idea how to respond to that. It's a very perplexing thing to say.
figure out the basic bullshit. Let her build the destiny.
You're still
He's essentially saying that women are way cooler than men. Like, what do you mean? I get to do this basic stuff while she's out here building the universe. Like, I'm not saying women aren't cooler than men. There are a lot of really cool women that do a lot of really cool things. But it's so funny that the traditional man is the person who's out here being like, no, women are awesome and men suck. I don't get it. I don't know what his point is. I don't. Not that I don't know.
No, who has the final say?
Leadership.
No one said.
Ultimately, I've heard it many times.
Oliver,
discussed with
let's
you
just
guys.
pass the mic to
I've heard
someone
it many
else.
times.
I see
my
a
wife
hand.
can consult me. My wife can talk with me about it, but ultimately it's up to me. I heard it somewhere
So
over
some
there.
people, but those.
Hey guys, Shane here. I had a quick question because it's kind of interesting because I'm kind of held up on the word should. It's interesting to see a lot of traditional men actually up there and not the progressive men because, I mean, most people would typically think most progressive men would be up there. So for me, I'm looking at it as like that word should is a hang up for me because I think that also provides a space for men to not take accountability for their lacking or whatever they're not showing up in that relationship to support, etc. with their partner. I also, I've been with my wife, married 10 years, 20 years we've been together. So I have extensive experience of how women work. And there's this idea of being so gendered, but when you've been together long enough, you realize the gender roles fall apart. if one person is making more money and the other person isn't, I don't think it's a question of should, it's just the opportunity there. And I think that women should have the opportunity if they wanted to step up. I think that's important. But I also think that there's a lack of accountability, especially on the traditional side. It's just interesting to see so many of you guys up there, because usually with all the other points, it seems like, I want to be gung-ho, I want to show up, but it's like, it's that should for me that I'm really hung up on, because I think that the opportunity for women to show up, also that lack of accountability, I'm stuck on that because it doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. Hold on, who's 6?
So, like, for me,
okay, Juman's gonna give his piece now. You'll notice what Shane says. He keeps saying, it's the should for me, it's the should for me. And you know what? He's absolutely right. Because the video is not really showing it. It's driving me nuts that they're not showing it, because it makes me feel crazy. But John, multiple times, John kept saying the wrong middle ground. He kept saying that if a man is failing in his leadership role, then a woman should step up. And he repeated it multiple times. And I kept thinking to myself, like, that's what I said? I said that a woman should step up? That's not what I meant. That's what I said? I said, did Nils like pull a sneaky one on me? That's what I was thinking a little bit. I was like, maybe, because I remember I said the prompt to Nils, and maybe when he repeated it back, he left out the word should, the words should be able to step up. Maybe Nils just, snuckily, hit me with a should step up. And I was blaming Nils a little bit. I was like, he must have hit me with a sneaky one. I don't know if he did it on purpose, but he must have swapped it around, and that was like the final statement. And so that was what we shook hands on, and that's what they chose. But that's not what happened. Nils and I said the exact same thing. We both said that a woman should be able to step up, which is vastly different from saying should step up. You know who was the person who said should step up? Is this little demon hiding in the corner? John, the instigator, whipped out should step up multiple times, making me feel nuts and making Shane feel conflicted. I got screwed over on this one. I keep hitting the wrong button. Whatever. I got screwed over on this one, and it's all thanks to John. John, you remember when I called you stupid? I'm just kidding, John. I'm just kidding. But that drove me nuts, and that is what led to a large division within, I think, the progressive group. I don't know if it led to that large division, because Shane was really the only person who really brought up the trouble that he was having with it. But still, it drove me nuts, because I was like, why did I say that? And I didn't. John did.
Because it doesn't make sense to me.
So like for me personally, right? Like I'll share my personal experience, right?
Now Juma is about to say a lot of I remembered to be great things and then really bad things. I guess not necessarily for the relationship that he and his partner have chosen to engage with, but to my ears, I felt like I was pearl clutching. You're about to see.
Right, there was a time where my wife was making more than me at that point in time, right? And I wanted her to show me a certain amount of respect. And she kept it a band with me. She went like, dude, I work longer hours than you and I make more money than you. She's not wrong. So what ended up happening is me as a man, I rose to the occasion. I was like, yo, I want her to do X, Y, and Z when I tell her to do it, how I tell her to do it, exactly when I want her to do it. She told me she's willing to sign up.
Riley's face. Look at my face. Riley and I both were like, okay, that's a wild thing. That's a wild way to swing and just let everyone know how you're feeling. But I mean, the truth is if that's what works for his relationship, if she is happy and he is happy, because we'd be lying if we say that there are no women who don't like to be the submissive one. I've known you can see it in so many different areas of life. There are a lot of women who do just like to be submissive, and it's not. I say that in a strange vein because I think there are a lot of men who like to be submissive. There's a lot of everybody who likes every kind of different thing. So if he has found someone who works with him where he feels he's a dominant man and she feels she's a submissive woman, well then that's perfect. That's great. I'm not going to tell them not to live their lives just because I personally think, it's a little wild to me. That's their life. If it works for them, makes them happy, bam. Same thing for any different dynamic of relationship. So while I'm pearl clutching, you see me back there like, really, man? If it makes them happy, if it works for them genuinely, then I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to go and try and tell him how to live his life. That's his life. And that's her life, especially. It is their life together.
For that. But I need to do my part now and pull the weight that she wants me to pull. For me, if you want that kind of power, because not even power, if you want that level of responsibility,
I gotta be careful. I don't want to get a bunch of
you need to be able to carry that burden, because she can't follow you if you don't even have a roadmap for yourself. What is she gonna follow? What is she gonna submit to? Poverty, Section 8 housing, food stamps? Like, nah, bruh. Like, no. That isn't what a woman should submit to. You should be solid through and through. If you want to be treated like you solid, act like you solid. Walk the walk and talk the talk.
What he says there isn't wrong. To a weird degree, where I would imagine that if you wanted to be a leader in your relationship, well, you need to lead, however that looks, right? And if your partner wants that too, well, I'm assuming they're probably going to have some kind of standards for you. I think that's why I'm so against that kind of mentality, is because it feels conditional, right? But it's all so weird because, Juma saying along the lines like, oh, he wants his woman to submit is strange to me. It's foreign to me, but that's his life. Same thing with a woman who wants their man to lead. Those are all kind of foreign things to me to a certain degree or another. Is that there are people that I've met who are like that from both sides for sure. But I don't know. I guess they were never really my type of people, I guess. I don't know how to explain it. So for me, it's a strange thing to hear. But I mean, it is not a strange. I guess it's not strange necessarily in the society we live in today. But yeah, for me, it is wild. But I mean, if they're both happy, I'm not going to judge at all.
When I see men talking about, I'm going to come in and be this traditional man and take care of the finances, yet now there's this stipulation of like, well, actually, if I'm not doing my job, you got to show up. And I think for traditional women, I don't see trad wives actually. I see them going, hey, let's get another man.
Really?
That's typically what happens with traditional.
See, Nils is trying to jump in here. I wonder what Nils had to say about this. I really, because Shane does hit a very, very important point that is an uncomfortable truth, I think, for trad men who live in today's society, which is that a woman not working is very hard to live on. Is that if you are a sole provider, you have to be working in a very lucrative job. It is not easy for a man to work and a woman not to work, or a woman to work and a man not to work. It's not. Or you just have to have a good job, right? I don't know necessarily what most people's jobs are. I just work a normal kind of basic job, but like a grown-up job, I guess. I don't really know how that looks. But the truth of the matter is that if you wanted a traditional relationship, you technically, by your own standards, you need to be grinding hard to make sure that you can afford that traditional relationship. Because if she's working, I've got unfortunate news for you. That's not a traditional relationship. It's just not. This is a neo-traditional relationship, which is an oxymoron. Or maybe I'm a moron. I don't know what the word oxymoron means. I think I'm using it right. Which is that, how are you going to be a neo-traditionalist? I don't know.
Women that are looking at their men and going, hey, you're not providing for. I mean, if that's the mindset that the two consenting adults agree to have, that, hey, I want a traditional marriage, I want to stay home, I want to raise the kids. If the man's not making the money, then, I mean, just from your perspective, it sounds like you're more of a progressive relationship by looking at it that way, because it's like you're actually providing an opportunity for women to work, make income, and support, which seems more of a progressive relationship than a traditional one.
Right. So I totally not about the accountability. And like Anthony said, I think when you're saying it creates a space for men to not take accountability, totally not talking about that. Right. And I think there is also a view that trad wives, they don't do any hard work. They just
No, I'm
sit
not
with
saying
the
they didn't
kids
do
all
any
day?
hard work, but there's an expectation that the financial side is taken care of because that's the male's role to go out in the world. So it's confusing to me as a progressive listening to someone who's claiming to be traditional when it really sounds extremely progressive for you to be like, I mean, even the gentleman over here was like, hey, you know, I have my wife and she works from home. I mean, that's not technically then traditional if she's working. I mean, if we're just going on the baseline of what a trad wife is, when we see trad wife content, we see
My cat keeps
baking,
bumping the mic.
babies, we see
All that stuff is just
don't see
pornography.
beyond the financial, like,
Okay,
you know, it's
I have-
not real.
hello.
It's made
No,
for
no,
social
he's
media.
no. Hey, Aldo's
Isn't that
completely right on
fantasy
that
you
one.
guys are trying to create for yourselves?
Going to Aldo's point, and
Okay, so what I'm saying is that it's very interesting because Aldo is then therefore shifting the kind of focus on like the trad wife content that you see online, which is obviously not traditional. You're not a traditional person if you're on TikTok. You're 100% just putting on a show to make money. Like that's not traditional. It's just not. But I think that you can't hand wave away that truth, which is that no, it's not just like this trad wife, you know, pornography content. The truth behind it is that no, traditional relationships is that the man works, the woman stays at home. That's the traditional relationship. So when you come up here and you say these things that are like, oh no, the woman's working too, like, well, that's just not traditional. It's just not by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not.
just for me to say this, me personally, I don't believe that your father failed at all. It just for like unfortunate circumstances that actually led to that happening.
Well,
number
no one
one,
said,
and number
no one said he failed. Well, I mean, maybe traditional men said he failed. I don't know, but no, he had a rough time, man. He had a rough time. That's everyone has a rough time.
two, just like you said before, like
Oh, I guess because you're following the prompt, right? If a man is failing his leadership role. Well, I mean, yeah, it doesn't really attribute to failing. I mean, this whole freaking middle ground. That's the thing about why it's such a successful middle ground is that everyone's mad about it. It's so dumb. Yeah. Ultimately, like, I mean, defining like failing and everything is going to be a whole new can of worms that I don't really feel like opening. But essentially, if he's not providing the finances, then technically he's failed. That we could just call it like that, I guess. Come on, baby. Yeah.
all these women with these trad wife contents, yeah, it's like pretty much like pornography, not like in a sexual sense,
you gotta
but
get
just
that.
like the
Nope.
point that they're trying to get actually
Go
get.
on.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. Yeah, guys, like yes, I'll actually be one of the like first to agree. Times have definitely changed. It's not like how it used to be. It, like due to like a lot of economical factors, it does take two incomes to actually go ahead and keep a household going,
It's
raise the
not
kids, etc.
traditional.
You know,
It's
and one of
not.
the reasons why I'm here sitting down, like the reason why I'll probably actually just disagree, is because yeah, I do believe that yes, men should lead, and it's just super crazy how we just continue to go back and forth with this kind of thing, because yes, men naturally lead, women naturally follow,
I
and I
can't
don't
talk about
really
this
understand like why we're
again.
just saying like, oh yeah, like
I've
well,
already
yeah,
talked
like, well,
about it.
women can do X, Y, and Z. Yeah, like
mind
don't get me wrong, that's actually true, but the women that I've seen in like in these leadership roles, in these more dominant roles, are super unhappy and resentful. You look at some of the marriages too.
It's just the
where
most silly
women
thing
are
I've
actually
ever heard in my life. Like a buddy of mine's a woman in a leadership relationship, and she's unhappy. It's ridiculous, man. It's just ridiculous. You can't generalize like, oh, you know, I see them, they're just kind of unhappy. You do not know all of the leadership women in the world. You just don't. You cannot make that assertion.
leading their household, they actually get divorced most of the freaking time. You know what
According
I
to
mean?
who?
It's just super crazy. They actually resent their husbands for actually not being the breadwinners. They are not built to be in the
Those
trench.
people are not in love. I'll tell you that right now. If your condition for being in a relationship is that your husband has to be the breadwinner, you do not love that man. At least that's my perspective on it, is that if you have conditions set for your partner where it's like, oh, if my wife isn't cleaning the house every day, I don't love her, or if my husband isn't making a six-figure salary, I don't love him, you guys never loved each other at all.
Trenches, for making the money and on top of that maintaining the household.
I'm actually familiar with the research in regards to women making more than men and then having a higher divorce rate. The reason for that was because, and you may have actually noted or hinted to it earlier, was because despite making more of the money, they were also had the burden of doing all the household chores and all of the sort of domestic labor. So
God
that
damn.
was more of a fault of the men not stepping up and fulfilling what many of you would consider the feminine role in the household
Oasis is
and
so
not
funny.
doing some of the domestic labor. So yeah, that's all I wanted to respond to, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be the case that just because a woman is able to be successful in her role, be it like career-wise or economic-wise, that's necessarily going to break down the foundation of your relationship. I think if anything, you should aspire to want a woman who is driven, and maybe it could be driven in the sense of raising your household, but I think it's also perfectly normal and perfectly fine to want a woman who's extraordinarily driven and smart and intelligent and want to fulfill something outside of raising a family.
Can I?
I think if she has that purpose, then 100%.
Like we're splitting hairs a lot here and using some fuzzy anecdotes that sound like science. And I think what gives me trouble with this statement, and I think maybe is what I'm hearing from a lot of my friends here, is it implies a fundamentally different set of skills and roles and responsibilities by gender. And that's and I think the point I want to make is it's totally cool for you to choose that worldview for your family, but there is no scientific basis that there is a predisposition among men to be better leaders than women or anything like that. So I think the issue is it's a difference between what's right for you because you chose it and what's right for everybody because you think that's how everybody is.
So
okay. So again, unfortunately, the middle ground is screwing us all up, because not only is the middle ground already just a hard thing to kind of parse as a group. Again, John screwed me over, said the wrong thing. Two, the thing about this middle ground statement is, again, what Ryan is saying is that it implies that there are certain skill sets between a man and a woman that means that a man be leading and a woman be doing other things. It's not what my intention was. I'll say it just one last time. Is that my intention with the middle ground is that we're talking about a specific circumstance where a relationship has chosen a male leader and a female non-leader, I guess, follower. The female does more following. In this specific circumstance, not taking in a gay relationship, not taking in a relationship where that is just simply not the case, we're talking about a specific circumstance where that has been chosen, where the man is the leader and the man has failed. It is not meant to imply that men are natural leaders at all. And if you see my conversation with Nils, you'll see that that is not what I ever said, and that was never my hope for this. But it is a very, very confusing statement, only made more confusing by John.
Oh, do you believe that men and women have natural, like, biology, psychology, societally, even like natural dispositions where some may have strengths and weaknesses?
Nils keeps saying all three in together. That's not how that works. The first two go together, the last one's not.
And whereas the other one might have strengths and weaknesses that sort of complement each
Well,
other?
so no, yes and no. Yes, because everybody is a gender, but it's way more what's the word I'm looking for? Nuanced than that. It's not like all women are this way, all men are this way. Some women are better at leading. Some women are better at cooking. Some women would be better presidents than other women. Same thing is true for men. And that's not about gender. It's about difference.
This one's actually tough, and you brought up the tough part about this question from where I sit. The tough part is I'm also Catholic. The divorce thing is the issue. I believe that if the man is not fulfilling his role, then the woman should exit in a non-marriage. If this is a dating situation, because it described, the prompt said romantic situation.
Okay, do you see freaking his face during that? I don't understand. Then how? So then you agree with the prompt. If you're saying that no, they shouldn't just walk away, then what is the alternative? That they just fail together? Like Juma said, is submit to poverty together?
in a non-marriage. If this is a dating situation, because it described, the prompt said romantic situation. If this is a dating situation, the woman should absolutely exit, step out, and search for another man. If this is a marriage, that's where that's tricky. I still haven't formulated. I think it's very case dependent.
You know, when I first went up and had this conversation of like the men leading in a romantic relationship, I think a common misconception is that, you know, there's control involved, there's like leadership involved. You know, we can throw on all these terms, and I think that sometimes we tend to negate the female role in the relationship as something lesser, or something that's supposed to be like you're less than, because like you know, for all these different reasons. And I'm just like, as a Christian, you know, I'm coming at it with this background, but I could probably argue even without it. But there's one example in the Bible of, you know, if you go and read Proverbs 31, it talks about what a godly woman looks like, and she is industrious. Like, she goes out and she buys a vineyard, and you know, she takes care of the home. She does all of these things, but all the things that she does are for the good of the family. And so that's why I think a woman sometimes, like, stepping up per se, I don't think looks like always means that she's in a leadership role, but rather she's going out and making, like, if she needs to make extra income because that's what's gonna make the family succeed, I personally have no problem with that. I mean, I think that's a very biblical principle. I think I might disagree with you a little bit, but like, if I worked in like construction or something and I had like my arm blown off and, you know, I really can't work anymore, I think it'd be virtuous for my wife then to step up, so to speak, and then, you know, maybe she does work, and then maybe there's some different changes there. But the whole premise behind what I say is, like, when a man leads, I'm not saying that a woman is less than. Like, I think she has the ability and capability to do all of these like amazing things. So I don't think it's just this whole like dominance thing that we kind of tend to make it, if that kind of makes sense.
I was originally over there because.
So before we get to Nate, because I think Nate really wraps it up really well. What Nils is saying, he got back there in the end. He started off by talking about, you know, like, I think what he's trying to get to, of course, is that, you know, that being a leader and, you know, being a not leader, I guess a submissive woman, that there's not one that is greater than the other, is what I think he's trying to say. Is that he's trying to say that, you know, a woman doing her duties at the home is just as great as a man doing his duties out in the world. I think he got a little lost there in the middle bit, because he talked about how the Bible gives an example of a glorious woman who's like industrious, which I think kind of goes against the idea of like what is apparently a traditional woman. So I don't really know why he chose to bring that up. Just because I maybe I'm wrong, maybe I just didn't understand it. But when he talks about like the Bible bringing up an industrious woman as an example of, you know, a glorious woman, well then doesn't that kind of go against the idea that a woman should be staying at home and being the, you know, the submissive one or whatever? But regardless, I get where he was trying to go, and he ended up at the end, which is try to say that being a leader and being in a woman's role, as he's putting it, that they're equal. That he views both of them as great things, that one is not greater than the other. Which I understand what he's trying to say, and I agree with the idea that no one person in a relationship is greater than the other. I don't agree with the idea that there are just innate roles that each person has. I just don't. I don't believe that one person is more biologically wired to be one thing and one person is more biologically wired to do another. I truly do believe that the way that society was built is what guides people into their roles, rather than how they are just wired inside their brains and their bodies.
Dominance thing that we kind of tend to make it, if that kind of makes sense.
I was originally over there because of the implication that men are the natural leaders in the family unit. You know, I grew up Christian. I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school for up until about middle school, and then from there, my mom converted to Christianity, and we started going to evangelical Christian church. So I've been around that form for a long time, and I really have a struggle with the idea that the man is the leader, because for a large portion of my life, as a divorced child of divorce, my dad wasn't there. You know, my mom took that role. My dad, like, I did visit him, I did see him on the weekends, but he was given the time that he was given, and I don't think he used the time given properly. And I've seen the women in my life take on more of that role of the, you know, of the leader of the household, Primarily my mom. She worked. She went to school. She took me to school.
It's a strong woman.
Yeah.
Just saying.
You know, she is the reason why I am the person I am today.
I have one quick follow-up. Do you wish your dad had stepped into more of a leadership role than he did?
Now I don't think so, because the reason why I say that is because the tools that he was given to be a father at the time were not the right ones. He wasn't a nice man. So I think after he had my brothers, he had a lot more time with my stepmom. He had a lot more time to think about what made a good man and like what made a good father. So I don't think I would trade kind of my experience, even though I did go through some shit, you know?
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Nate wraps up, like I said, beautifully. Really, really beautifully. I don't think there's anybody who is gonna have any negative thing to say about what Nate came up to when Nate came up to contribute to the conversation, because ultimately the experience that Nate had, it's sad, because you don't want a relationship to obviously not work out like that. You don't want a divorced family. You don't want a child being raised without a parent. And so it's a tough thing, I think, for Nate to walk away with the idea that it was probably best that my dad wasn't around. What he's saying, right? And to have that emotional maturity and that kind of mental fortitude to be like, yeah, no, I think it's best that my mom raised me. Yeah, I'd imagine it's a very tough thing to kind of arrive at. I mean, but ultimately, just the entire experience he shares overall about having just an incredible mother. It does not matter what the gender is. It never did. Regardless if it was his father that stayed or his mother that stayed, it's the fact that they were an incredible parent. And I firmly believe every single person, regardless of biology, has that capability. It does not matter what your sex, what your sexuality, what your religion, any of that. Anybody could be a great parent. Leader, not leader, doesn't matter.
Our final middle ground statement from part one. The question was, is Elon Musk a good masculine role model? And the middle ground statement was...
Elon Musk is not a good masculine role model.
Yeah, great. I love that it was really that easy.
Sounds
Elon
good.
Musk is not a good role model.
All right, let's fight about something else.
Come on, please. Oh my God, pretty crowded over here. Someone want to call him a loser? I got no.
Okay, so Elon Musk has done a number of things, positive things. A lot of people wouldn't necessarily say that now, but he's landed the rocket. He's made an amazing.
All right, we're gonna speed this one up because it's a non-conversation. It really is. We're gonna do 1.5, and we're just gonna get through this because this is the most. Everybody who's sitting down is just not knowledgeable about Elon Musk, and I can end that right there.
Car that's done amazing things. Now he's working with the president. A lot of people say that's like mixing oil with water. But then again, you have to give these people a chance. We don't know where Doge is going, and we're not really exactly sure if it's going to help out or not. You have to be a judgment of the statement, whether or not this is going to happen. You have to give it a chance and understand. I'm not too sure if crypto is really up all in because of the Dogecoin. I don't know. It's all interesting.
Okay, no idea what he's talking about Dogecoin. That's nothing to do with Doge, the government agency. Two, talking about he made a car, he caught a rocket. He did not do any of those things. He literally bought the car company, and he literally just told scientists that he wants to catch a rocket, and that is it. He did not do a single piece of engineering any way, shape, or form, aside from being like, hey, I want this to like make a funny sound or something, or to look a little funny. Doesn't matter. He didn't do anything. He simply has money, and he did not earn that money. He got it from his father, and that's it. End of story.
This is your statement. Why are you here?
So I switched because between the lunch break when I made that statement and now I got a Venmo from Elon. No, I'm just no, it's because essentially, all jokes aside, he has shortcomings, but I want to see what he does in the future because we are not measured by what we're doing in any one given moment. Like people hated him when he did the PayPal, or like I think like the version of MapQuest that he used to sell, or people hated him during the first part of Tesla. Now they hate him during Doge. Like there's so much more to that potential story of fighting adversity. And now
Why is Michael there? I didn't remember Michael being there.
Or is it fighting adversity because I think someone referenced, like, I think we were talking about possibly has narcissistic tendencies? Or is it because it's like narcissist, grifter, or someone who genuinely sees the way the wind is blowing and wants to see what is doing better and is like accepting his mistakes, whether they're a literal blown up rocket in his face or, you know, some other thing that he did wrong in the past. So maybe there's a chance that he can show the masculine example of bettering himself.
No. He's been a grifter for a very long time. He is only getting worse. Consistently doubling down, getting worse. You're just not knowledgeable about him. That is it. I promise you, that is it. You just don't know enough about him.
I think, as the person who agreed with you initially, I never said Elon Musk didn't have virtues. I think he does. Yeah, but I think my reason for not thinking he's a good role model.
Even Ryan saying he has virtues is wild to me, because I thought Ryan had a bit more of authority on it. He has no virtues. Literally zero. He got money from his dad. He bought a bunch of companies, and that's really it. He has ambitions. He has things he wants to do. And he has money, so he can do them. It's that simple. You can do that with anybody. Anybody can be given money and just throw around ideas, hoping that, you know, somebody will be able to make their idea for them. But he just done nothing. So I actually don't even know why Ryan is even saying he has virtues, because no, he doesn't.
Model is that he, among other things, consistently refuses to take full responsibility for the things he's done that aren't great. And so I think it's not, you're right, it's not fair to judge anybody's lifetime midstream. That's not fair at all. But having said that, just because he's done some great things and he might do great things later, that doesn't erase his poor judgment when it comes to his
I don't think he did great things, and I do not think he will do great things. And I do believe he has poor judgment.
family and other things he's done that aren't great that he has to take responsibility for.
I was really shocked when the majority of people on my side said that they didn't like Elon Musk.
Okay, I don't know this guy. He's progressive, you know, so we're all on the same side here. However, he also struck me as super not knowledgeable about Elon Musk, and we're gonna find out why, because I don't remember.
Additionally, on that side as well, it shocked me because when you take like American history or you learn about the history of this country, you hear about Carnegie, Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan Chase, and the robber barons of the last century. And Elon Musk, Bezos, Zuckerberg, that is what is going on now. These people will be in the history books, and I think it's just so ironic that people can somehow justify to themselves that a man like Elon Musk, he's not even American, came over here, not only got the car industry, like we have Ford, we have Chevy, Cadillac, GMC, etc. He was like, you know what, I'm gonna make a car company. One, it's gonna be.
He did not make a car company. He is a rich Dutch South African. He literally is profited. His family profited off of horrific conditions that were subjected to people who do not look like him. You know, I don't want to get into the specifics, I guess, of that part, but we know that his father owned a literal emerald mine, which therefore gave him a rich boatload of money, and that is a fact.
Be American too, it's gonna be electric. Like, I think on both ends, economically we benefit from that. Even just like sustainability wise, I don't think anybody's gonna really argue with it all that much. Additionally, he's done a lot of things that he got.
Again, he didn't make the car.
Got a lot of flack for, and his his strong resolve, his virtue by purchasing Twitter. And even if you don't like,
Oh my dear Lord, I forgot about him saying
like
this.
Donald Trump, or you don't like anybody else who got canceled with the whole like Twitter was not allowing the president of the United States to speak on their platform, he purchased it back because he believed that we have the right to have a voice, whether.
No, you're literally just not knowledgeable about this situation at all. He literally was fucking. I'm sorry, that came out of me. He literally did not want to buy Twitter. He was posturing and peacocking and being like, oh, I'll get $40 billion of Twitter. And then when he tried to back out of the deal, because he did not want to buy Twitter, they sued him and made him stick with the deal. You are simply wrong. He's only been propagandizing that position ever since he just got screwed over, because he takes his failures and he shoves it in your face as though it was actually a masterful gambit when it was simply not. He is a constant failing upwards moron. Simple.
Whether or not what you say is popular, whoever you are, if you're the president or you're just some guy off the street. And I think it's really ironic that people can't get behind that. But anyway, that's just me.
Okay, can I go?
Yeah.
So I don't care about what you said, but I think about masculinity, which comes into play here, because again, being a very gay man myself, I'm masculine. I'm very, very masculine. I have a deep voice, probably more than all y'all in here. You know, which does make me put it.
What'd you say? I didn't hear you.
Exactly.
I actually don't know.
I said, my voice is deeper than most of all y'all in here. So masculinity is the topic of this, not rockets and what he can do on X and Twitter. It's about masculinity. So if you all think, I know you know.
Quiet.
I think the masculinity is what needs to be focused here, not just like what he's done. It's like this this man, I mean, he's obviously a bad father. He's obviously a bad man. Nobody that would want people to be harmed in any kind of way is a good role model. And you guys, specifically on this red thing, because it's like not all. I'm sure some of you are lovely people, but this is like masculinity is like the epitome to everything. Masculinity isn't everything. Like you guys sleep with women. You like women a lot. You talk about women a lot, but not you.
Daniel's so funny.
Yeah, but you don't want not you because I know you respect women, but you don't want to like give them like a props. You don't want to give them like power, but you want to have sex with them. I don't like.
Daniel's so funny.
Is this about Elon Musk?
Masculinity. It's about masculinity. Everyone's talking about.
I have one other thing to say.
I think
where's the masculinity part in this?
I just want to say
that's what I'm saying.
One of the main reasons why I identify with Elon is because he is autistic. I am as well.
Everyone is just like, okay, because I mean, you had a room full of progressive individuals. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure there is a lot of autistic trad men as well, but I think the progressive ones are also like they identify and they know they're autistic and so they're very much so out in the open about it. So he's like, it's a lot of progressives who like join the club.
Masculinity. It's nothing to do with masculinity.
Okay, but let's let him finish
It's the fact. One of the things that he came up with. A lot of people have tested him. Disney came to him and he said, "Go fuck yourself. I know all this shit." But he has come up with the name woke mind virus. It is
Please, can Michael, can you please at least like look at it like that's crazy?
true. It is accurate.
Michael. Oh, my friend. Like, nobody is looking at this man like he's nuts for saying those words. Nipun? Well, I guess Nipun's kind of looking at him like, did he just say that? I don't know. It's a wild thing that he just said.
It is affecting this country. It is destroying what this country is supposed to be. What is originally supposed to be.
I want to go back to the masculine point of things here. I think like I'm sorry, your mind escapes. Nipun, you're a religious man, right? So I would say just on the morality in your framework as a religious man, he has several different baby mamas, if we're just to call it, right? I feel like as a religious person, you can't look at that and kind of qualm that as something that you would teach your children, right? That's what we're talking about as a role model for children.
Good at talking
we're going to
about
look at, additionally, too, on the idea of him creating these things, right? If we're looking at Tesla, for example, he didn't create Tesla, he bought Tesla, and he bought the idea of the Tesla. Same thing with PayPal, same thing with SpaceX. I don't discredit him for the amount of drive and push, the money amount that he pushed towards that, but he didn't create those ideas. He just funded them.
So I'm gonna let him rock in just a second, but I'm gonna give it to you right now. But what I wanted to say is that the reason why I'm over here is because we're talking about masculinity. Masculinity is leadership. He is definitely a leader, and he's a proven leader. He's a proven leader right now. You cannot.
He's not a leader, dude. Being a CEO does not make you a leader. It makes you the freaking annoying guy that the real geniuses have to go up to try and get you to see why they are so smart and hope that you're not so stupid that you shoot them down.
I tell you, there's nothing you can tell me that's saying that Elon Musk is not a leader. Another thing is, we cannot say that everybody in here is perfect. So even you, as a man, to your own kids, you're not perfect. So if you want your kids to look at you and say, "Oh, well, you have some imperfection, so you know what? You're not a role model." So what I'm saying is,
I'm with him on that idea. Is that no one is perfect. So even a good masculine role model isn't a perfect role model. Elon Musk is not close to perfect. He is probably the furthest thing from perfect you've ever seen in your life. And that is why he's not a good masculine role model.
has imperfections. He's a man. He's imperfect. God made us imperfect. So for us to dwell specifically on his imperfections and not say, you know what, I can take some things from this man and use it as to be a great role model. He's a great leader. You know what? I'm gonna look at Elon Musk. If he wrote a book on leadership, I would read this book.
My problem with most of what's going on today is that people are inserting their opinions as if it's facts. Because you think he's a good leader does not make it so. Just because you say it doesn't make it so. You understand that doesn't make it. Just because you can speak loudly and say.
Oh my God, Daniel just repeats it over and over. It's so
if you don't go and plant them, doesn't make it so. Like it's just your opinion. We all have opinions here.
Perception is fact.
It's your perception is your facts. How you feel. That's never mind. Let me not do that. But yeah, I'm sorry. But it's how you feel, right? And you're allowed to feel that way. I don't feel that way.
So I agree with what Mr. 1950 said. However, I will kind of pull it back to the other argument. I believe, coming from my point of view, that the threshold for a masculine role model, a strong role model, not one that maybe for your kids to look up to, a good dad, a universal role model that society should look up to, that males should look up to. I believe that threshold is so high that I would argue that the only person who would meet that threshold in my eyes would be someone like Jesus Christ. So I would argue that Elon, unfortunately, there's nothing substantive there for me to say, wow, this is strong. This is someone of great sacrifice, of great character, of great strength. Yes, he has many accomplishments, but that great moral fiber, he doesn't radiate some great ideas of how to govern your life. He's actually, when I hear him speak, I've only heard him speak a few times, but it's pretty simplistic.
So I was torn to go up there. At first, I was going to go up there because I was like, yeah, maybe he isn't a great role model. But then I thought about all of his advancements, and we're just going to completely disregard that. And then you bring up,
yeah, Michael, Elon hasn't done anything. He just has a lot of money, Michael.
The fact that
I really feel for Michael. I liked him a lot, when we were talking. I really do think that he, similar to Nils, has a good heart. There's just, being traditional, being conservative, is something that I don't agree with. But I'd like to think that one day maybe they'll move past and realize, live and let live.
The threshold, right? Well, there's a lot of different character traits that make up a masculine man, right? We think about virtue, we think about honor, dignity, all these different things, right? So my question to that is, then who defines what the threshold is? Because not everyone is perfect. Everyone makes a lot of mistakes. I have people within my family who are men who I view them as role models, not in every category, but there are some things, for example, with my dad, he's very hardworking and I do view him as a role model. We might not be the closest, but he has had a great impact on my life that I apply to other areas. Now, there are certain things I highly, strongly disagree with him on, but does that make him a bad role model? Not so much. I mean,
Sure. But I don't think Elon Musk is. I'm going to take a wild bet and assume that Elon Musk is like a million times worse than your father. Because it's very hard to hit the threshold of being as bad as Elon Musk.
I think we're getting away from the prompt. The prompt is not if he's a good role model. It's if he's a good masculine role model. And trust me, like as an entrepreneur myself, as a business owner myself, like I'm pretty sure I have an Elon quote somewhere in my house or something like that. I love Elon, but I think the question today.
Oh my God. Just can't stand Elon Musk. I really can't. And he's done so much propaganda that is still believed to this day. It breaks my heart.
At least for the prompt is today is Elon Musk a good masculine role model? And
You could see me. You can see me in the background, like, oh gosh.
But I think the question today, at least for the prompt, is today is Elon Musk a good masculine role model? And I think as traditional men, I mean, I think we value a lot of family life, and I think that's like, honestly, and I don't think that's just something we argue for. I think that's something that is the foundational to what it means to be a traditional man. And I'm not convinced that just based off of the sleeping around, whatever, all these different types of things, like we can, you can eat the fish and spit out the bones with Elon, like he's this great guy. But when it comes to traditional masculinity, I'm just not convinced that he embodies that family thing that I think we all hold pretty dearly.
All right, so we've gone through all of the middle ground statements
There
from
we
part
go.
one. I now want to give all of the men in this room the
Absolutely right with that too. He definitely does not hold any kind of family virtues whatsoever.
opportunity to change the label
Even if
of
I was traditional, he still wouldn't fall in it for me.
the group that you're in. So if you no longer fully identify
Okay, I'm sorry. We'll slow it down now. But essentially what John is saying is that now we've gotten to a portion where if you no longer feel like you identify as progressive or traditional, you can come in the middle and identify as a moderate, someone who is in the middle of both of these groups.
as a progressive man or as a traditional man, and you see yourself more as a moderate, if that feels like a better representation of how you would categorize yourself, I want to give you the opportunity to move to the middle.
Hot damn. My friend Michael, this fella, gibberish. Nipun was actually, I think, the most shocking one out of all of them. Like I said, gibberish is, he had no idea where he was the whole time. I don't know this fella, so, But Michael, I was kind of hoping, I didn't know necessarily, just because, like, when we talked to him backstage, like I said, we just had, like, a normal, like, totally cool conversation that just made me kind of realize, like, he the way that he feels, he just wants to live a good life, And I think that the traditional kind of boundaries and the traditional kind of, like, idea is that if you follow the traditional lifestyle, then you'll live a good life. And I think that's why he's traditional more than, like, having any kind of, like, strong opinions about, like making everybody live a certain way, And so that's why I think I have a soft spot for Michael. I have a soft spot for Michael, and I have a soft spot for Nils as well, because we both worked hard to get to a conclusion together. Again, there are certain aspects that I've seen in his personal content he's made that really make me so sad and so upset. But ultimately, I would like to believe that one day he would be able to change his mind and live more for himself and live for his religion, his happiness, rather than feeling the need to push onto others like all of these other people have been choosing to do. That's what my hope is. I really do hope, as self-righteous as it is to say, I really do hope that maybe they become a little more progressive as time goes on and become a little more, focused on themselves and living their own best lives, because that's what I want. I really do want everybody to live their own best life without trying to harm anybody else, and that's the only thing I care about. And then our progressive ones coming up was very interesting as well.
Once a dirty lib, always a...
So this is the Elon guy. This guy never really talked all the time. We talked a little bit later on, and then what he says is very funny. We'll get there. Okay, and then freaking gibberish is just, he's just, we'll just go.
Once a dirty lib, always a dirty lib, man. I grew up as one, I've been liberal my whole life.
I've just become more traditional in like mostly romantic relationships. You know, as I said, how women like to be traded and like protecting, providing, as well as fiscally conservative. As I get more and more money, I'm like less about taxes and shit. But on terms of like social issues, which seem to be the main dividing factor, I think a lot of social issues can be solved by just like minding your own business and like not really caring what these other people do. To an extent, I know that there is like getting it in people's faces, which I'm against. I think my traditional men knew what stance I had with the LGBTQI transformers, then they would disown me because it's like their business, and so I really don't mind that. Or other, you know, my body, my choice, all that shit. Like I'm all for that. So. And also, you know,
I
they
just
were
don't even
very
wanna say anything.
religious, which I'm a little, but not the most. And
It's
you
just-
know, they're talking all
it
this shit,
blows
bro.
my
Like,
mind.
oh, you know, save yourself for marriage, all that shit, bro. Man, I don't know.
Okay, thanks to Rob for starting us off.
I want to just speak to my what is it, trad guys. When we say that we want to take down things like the patriarchy or like misogyny versus misandry, I believe that misandry is just as bad as misogyny. I do believe that there are things that we should address that affect men specifically. So I still think I am progressive, but I don't want to feel like we're leaving men out of this progressive movement. So that's why I wanted to take that opportunity.
Which is interesting. I get kind of the sentiment, but it's still kind of like an online sentiment, because there's not like real world misandry that is like happening broad spread that is like trying to ruin like men's lives. Like it's very few and far between cases of bad things happening and like annoying misandry that is in response to like horrible trauma and horrible experiences that women have had. I understand the desire to want to make sure that men are taken care of and that men are not, you know, thrown to the wayside. But I also just don't think that is happening in such a horrible way that really needs so much attention. And so I get it to a certain degree, is that, you know, you want to make sure that men are all good. And I guess my response is I think men are pretty all good. You know, I think that we're pretty much set. There are certain things that are more like individual scenarios, individual situations, rather than a overall larger problem, I would say.
We share similar values. Like over on this side, I also share similar values.
Wait, did Juma? I know Juma came up, but I just don't. Did he walk up originally, or did he join a little bit later? Oh yeah, Juma was right there. All right, yeah, Juma. Because he was also one that I was very interested in stepping up. I just didn't remember when he stepped up.
We share similar values. Like over on this side, I also share similar values with y'all as well. One thing that I
See, isn't that interesting? Some of these it's always so kind of interesting.
realize is that not too many people. Well, when we were doing the one-on-one, different, right? But when it came to my overall views on stuff, I didn't see too many people disagreeing with me. And it's because like I'm Muslim, I have a very unique view on a lot of the things. Like I'm pro, like if you gay, you want to do what you do. Hey, it is what it is.
See, that's what I'm saying. That part always really confused me, because in the conversation he's like, no, but here he's like, yeah. I really do think that when you're doing that one-on-one thing, there's a pressure to just keep fighting for no reason, even when you don't believe it.
It's between you and God. And if you don't believe in him, all right, then I guess if one day all of us die, if I'm right, I get to laugh about it. And if you're right, then I mean, it is what it is, right?
And I think that's such a like a beautiful, healthy way of looking at it. Genuinely. Because the truth is I would like to be religious. I would love to have faith. I genuinely just don't feel it, and I can't like force myself to feel it. I'm just like a hard agnostic, where I know I really want to believe in something, and I always think that there's a chance something's out there. But I'd feel much better if I felt 100% secure in my faith. I know I would. It'd feel great. But the truth is that either Juma's right and we're all laughing, or maybe he's laughing. I don't know entirely, I guess, how that works. But if Juma's right and he's laughing, great. But if, you know, he's wrong, who's going to argue? What does it matter? You know? This is what it is.
So
Exactly.
I mean, so my views are just different. So like a lot of the guys over here, like they were saying Christ is the only way. Okay, cool. You know, respect to that. If that's what y'all genuinely believe, hey, alhamdulillah, that just means all praise is due to God. Y'all rock exactly how y'all gotta rock. But me as a Muslim, I don't necessarily just co-sign that.
I'll keep it short. I think
So Juma also went on like a little speech that they seemed to cut out because the truth was that it wasn't really on topic, but he started talking about certain aspects of Christianity that he felt was very oppressive, and I thought it was very interesting. And I do actually want to look more into that someday. I can't speak to its authenticity necessarily. I just don't know enough about it really to, but I I don't know. It's complicated because I think that the reason why he brought it up was because he was feeling kind of like suffocated because there's a lot of Christianity around him. And I know that there was some kind of like tension between him and Nils, I think, at a certain point. I don't know exactly what happened, but I think that so he was kind of venting his frustration with Christianity. And I don't know. I've always been like, everyone's religion is everyone's religion. We should all just leave each other alone, let each other believe whatever we want to believe, and let everybody live the way they want to live. So I understand him venting his frustration. At the same time, I don't know. It's kind of complicated because it wasn't really, I guess, the place to do it. It wasn't really the time to talk about it. I really don't know. I guess I'm gonna kind of withdraw an opinion on this. Because like I said, I don't think there's really much purpose in like just knocking other people's religions for no reason. But if what he's saying is like true, then there's certain aspects of it that are like, well, I get it. I get that that's something that makes you very uncomfortable, makes you very upset about being around a lot of people that all believe that thing. It's complicated. It really is.
the thing that makes me more purple, so I have traditional beliefs, I have blue beliefs as well, is because I identify in the LGBTQ community. I don't view, excuse me, I don't view traditional relationships between a male and a woman the same because I don't transcribe to that. It looks very different for me, so that's why I'm pretty much over here. But I love y'all both.
Yeah, for me, I kind of always been moderate. I'm just the type of guy, I go what's in my best interest. I go what makes sense to me and what's going to make me progress in this society that's ever so changing. Every 5 years, the environment always changes. So it's very important for me to adapt. But each and every single one of you have some good points. Mm-hmm. That is my whole view of it all.
It's so funny. It's interesting because that is technically the progressive position, even though he's in the moderate thing, is that everyone should feel how they want to feel and do what they want to do is best for them. That's the whole argument that we've all been making this whole time. What the progressives have been saying is the way to live, and traditional people have been saying, no, you shouldn't be living that way. So it's always a strange thing. I think a lot of moderate people don't realize how progressive they are. So even when he's calling himself moderate, even just by the virtue of being people should live the way they want to live, I want to live the way I want to live, is still progressive.
Thank you. All right, I want to give you guys the opportunity to ask these guys questions.
Sure, yeah, I have a question specifically. I forgot your name. What's your name?
I'm afraid of you.
I got you.
Mike.
Well, I loved hearing your story, and Mike, and things like that. I guess my question would only be for you. You said a lot of things that resonate with me. Caring about men, wanting the best for men.
Right.
Caring about, ideally a society in which we don't crucify people who make, mistakes or, give them their best hearing in terms of the Me Too
Right.
stuff. And I think just for me, I guess, does any of that really take you away from the progressive movement? I guess, I'm someone who would identify as a progressive, but, I'd say I'm 70-30. There are many parts of the progressive movement, that are just so annoying and result in us basically losing anytime it comes to coalition building. So I think in that sense, is it possible for you to still consider yourself a progressive, but maybe, as you're talking about, caring about men's issues? I think caring about men's issues is an inherently progressive issue that we should work for on those grounds.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm still in blue for that because I do believe that, for example, the rates of high school dropouts for boys are higher than for girls.
Mm-hmm.
Mental health, suicide rates higher for men, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like as we talk about mental health and so forth, we have to make it feel like men are included in that. And so I'm still progressive, but I just want to make it feel like, oh, progressives don't care about that, I think. So,
And I would just like to clarify that we do care about that,
Right.
very much so. So just I want to let that be the case.
Yeah, I have a question for the pearl necklace. What's your name?
Gibberish on all platforms. JBBRSH.
Some of the things that you listed when you were talking about the things that you liked about the traditional side, provider, protector type things. Do you have any other examples of what you do like still from the traditional side, or is it just that?
Yeah, it's pretty much romantic relationships and fiscally, bro. I mean, socially, I think there just needs to be maybe because there's a weird dichotomy of oh, don't take my guns and don't control me, but also control this other shit that's going crazy. And I think to an extent,
You know what's so crazy? That's like the smartest thing he said. Because there's an inherent truth to that. It's just that traditional men, talk about, not being controlled and not letting other people tell them what to do, but also are trying to tell other people what to do. Good on them.
the reason I was wary to identify with the libs is because on the far left is just as bad as far right, bro. It's equally closed-minded.
Absolutely not. Being far left is just like, I just want everyone to live happily. Being far right is like, I want everyone to live like me.
On the left side, they're saying all this shit like, you can't do this shit and I should be able to be trans and whack it in your face.
Never mind.
But like on the other side, it's like we aren't teaching like crazy Bible shit and oppressing our kids with it. Like I'm saying both extreme sides should not be like imposed on people.
So sorry, brother. I was forgetting your name. Michael. I was like, oh, yeah. So my question to you is, words have meaning. And so when I think of traditional, when I think of conservative, I do believe it's a kind of an oxymoron to be socially liberal. I believe that if you're traditional, especially, you kind of do have to ascribe to that. What did you, in going through the process of signing up as a traditional, what was going through your mind when you're like, yes, I'm very socially liberal, but I want to identify as conservative or traditional? Because just because like this is an ongoing conversation in the conservative circles of what does that actually mean. And so to me, going traditional is actually even a step up from conservative. Yeah. And if you want tradition, it's like you have to have the ability to be able to pass it down. Yeah. And so like in your case, obviously you wouldn't be able to, unless you, of course, adopt it or something. Yeah. So I just kind of want to see your thought process as why did you choose to subscribe to traditional versus progressive?
I'm going to keep this as short as I can. Yes, that's a really good question. The reason why I prescribe more to traditional is because, like you said, things have been passed down, whether it's from society or your family norms. Being a gay man, I really believe in monogamy. I believe in finding your person and like building a relationship that's loving around that. And unfortunately, that hasn't been my experience with a lot of gay men. A lot of gay men believe in polyamory. When we look at the numbers from Gallup, according to 2021, 711,000 people got married that year. 98% of it was heterosexual relationships. About 1.2% of it was male-to-male relationships. So the idea of finding your person and wanting love and true romance has been hard to find. That I believe, because I'm still hopeful it's out there. In 2015, it became actually legal for all 50 states to get married as a gay man. That's very, very recent. And then in 2020, it became legal for you to actually be out in the office and not get fired for it. So when I look at the ideas that my mom and dad instilled within me wanting to find my spouse, it's very traditional. A lot of gay men, unfortunately, I say unfortunately because I think it's hurt our numbers, and it's why there's so much confusion when it comes to the apps and why people are frustrated because everyone, there's so many people sleeping around with each other and it's just not a traditional view.
So that everything that Michael just said is pretty much a big reason why I have such a soft spot for him, because like I said, his traditional views seem to stem more so from the idea of just wanting to be in a happy, loving relationship. And I think that he's just not had much luck with that. And I think it's because, gay men are predominantly more progressive. And so when you're looking at that, I guess, dating pool, and they don't all really ascribe to the similar kind of traditional values that you have in a relationship, then it makes you feel lost. It makes you feel like, well, what do I have? Like makes you feel confused, I would imagine, right? Is that you want a traditional relationship, but all these like people that are in your vicinity want the same thing you want, and you feel as though like the only way to get what you want comes from like identifying more in this traditional circle, when I don't think that's the case. I don't think being progressive means that you want to be polyamorous. You know, I don't think being progressive inherently means you don't want to get married. I think being progressive just means freedom for everyone to do what they want to do. And so the truth, my real honest take on Michael's situation is that he has just simply been unlucky. You know, it's hard to find someone you love. It's hard to find the right person for you. And I think you just simply have to keep going. And I know, I mean, look at him. Michael's a great looking guy, and he was a very sweet, very kind person when I talked to him. Now, again, he's on the traditional side. I have not seen his social media. I don't know what he's out here doing, but I truly want to believe he has a good heart, and I truly just want him to find love. I think, here's what I think. I think Michael finds love. I think Michael doesn't care about identifying as anything anymore when it comes to being traditional, progressive, or whatever. He's just happy he's in love. That's what I genuinely believe. Now, this is all being a little parasocial. I mean, I won't lie, but that's how I feel.
It's just really good to see how other men from all walks of life, different viewpoints, like talk to each other.
This is cool because I didn't get to see this part. They did this after we were all done.
Came into this as a traditional because growing up in a very conservative neighborhood, I was always just kind of I identified with those ideals, and I still identify with those ideals. But in 2025, as I'm growing into my own, I see that to be defined as a traditional man kind of presupposes to be defined as a traditional Christian man, and that's not something I am, and I'm not going to be something fake just to fit in. So
And like I said, that's a big aspect of it. Like I said, they're surrounded by a lot of Christian men, and these Christian men are trying to like force their ideals onto you. And so when you're identifying as a traditional person, but you don't identify with Christianity, you're inherently going to feel excluded, inherently going to have problems.
I think I want to start identifying as a moderate to basically create a space for people who have these traditional values in romance, in politics, but don't necessarily get their guidance from one specific book of scripture.
I came in as progressive, but I changed because there's a lot of inherent values that a lot of people on the conservative end have. The values of just simply kind of sticking to your guns, even if you're not sure, I guess leading your household, whether or not you're sure of yourself or the environment. I'm going to need those as well when I have children and a family.
I don't understand the mindset behind that, of being like, you know, the things that I take away from conservatives is that even if you are messing up and having a bad time, you still just gotta stick in there and make it your all. Like in terms of like not even like in a way of like positive, uplifting thinking, but in a way of being like, you know, you just gotta keep on going. Don't let nobody take that leadership role from you. It's a wild thing to walk away with. It really is.
Thank you guys for watching this episode. Let us know if you're a moderate, progressive, conservative in the comments. Remember, these are all human beings. When you leave a comment, if you leave a hate comment, you are part of the problem. You are not doing any good. Welcome you guys into the center to shake hands and mingle for a bit.
I remember I was kind of waddling in. I didn't know. I don't remember how it all went down. I think I shook a hand or two, but I don't know. It's been a while. I was tired. It was very long. But okay. Woo! That was so fun. All right. Well, everyone, that has been me reacting to another Jubilee video that I was in, which is just part 2 of the first one. But I had a great time. So many cool different things to talk about. I don't know how to end the video. Listen, it was an experience. It was an experience I'm so glad I had, and it was so interesting to see, and interesting to see the reaction to, and interesting to see how it all went down ultimately. And so I don't know. Like I said in the last video, ultimately this channel is for random things. This isn't really necessarily a political channel. I will never shy away from my politics. So that's something that will always kind of be there, but it's not really something that I think I'll be talking much about unless I have like something to say about it. So like I said, I'm not super knowledgeable on politics. I simply operate from the idea that I want everyone to live happily. And so if I have something to say that has to do with that, well, there we go. By the way, this is Pulp Kino. This is where I talk about and do random things, like whatever, like food or Universal Studios stuff, or I don't know, just random stuff. Kino Vera YouTube channel is also around, and that has my gaming content where I just stream, play video games, hang out, nothing crazy, just stuff like that. And then Kino is my film channel where I talk about movies and I make video game movies, so video games that are edited to look like movies or TV show kind of. And yeah, and then of course there's this channel, and there's I'm Kino Vera on Twitter, I'm Pulp Kino on Instagram, and I don't know, if you feel like keeping up or any questions or anything, feel free to ask. And well, it's been a pleasure, everyone, and I want to thank you all for checking it out, all one of you. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. And I don't know, maybe I'll see you next time.